Good evening. The Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Board of Trustees are now convened in a regular board meeting on Monday, September the 14th, 2020, in the boardroom of Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Instructional Support Center, located at 10,300 Jones Road, Houston, Texas, at 6 p.m. I want to welcome the members of our audience and our television viewers to this meeting of the Board of Trustees. As the Cypress-Fairbanks Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets and contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. Prior to this meeting, board members received information related to items on tonight's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. The meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by sections 551.071 through 551.084 of the Texas Government Code. These proceedings are airing live on Comcast Channel 16 and the district website. They will also be available as video on demand on the district website following tonight's meeting. For the video to adequately reflect the proceedings, I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that cell phones are turned off or in silent mode. I didn't bring mine tonight, so I'm not going to show you I've got mine, but would y'all please turn those off? Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening and for your interest in Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District. I would also like to take this opportunity to recognize our Community Leadership Committee members who are in attendance tonight. Leslie Martone, would you stand? Thank you, Leslie. Stacy Anderson, would you stand? Thank you, Stacy. Frances Romero, would you stand? Thank you, three ladies, for coming, and we appreciate your dedication to the community leadership.
Bob, we have one more member here as well. Ryan Irving.
Ryan, and you look so nice. Ryan is here with us. Ryan Irving. I'm sorry, I didn't have you on the list. Excuse me. The invocation and pledge for tonight's board meeting will be given by Reverend Heather Tollison of the First Christian Church. Heather graduated from Cypress Falls High School in 1998 and attended Texas Christian University to study religion and psychology, also where she earned her master's degree. She has been serving congregations for 20 years in Texas, Kentucky, and Arizona, and is very happy to be back in the area where she grew up, serving a congregation committed to creating justice and equality in our community and beyond. Heather, we appreciate your commitment to the students and families of our district, and thank you for being with us tonight. Before the invocation, I'd like to introduce the AFJROTC cadets who will be presenting the colors this evening. Our cadets are from Cypress Creek High School, and they are Cadet Staff Sergeant Yasmin Soto on left rifle, Cadet Captain Larissa Sarabia carrying the American flag. Gilbert, any kin to you? Okay. I'd claim her, okay. Cadet Second Lieutenant Eric Carranza carrying the Texas flag, and Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Haley Kopp on the right rifle. Our cadets this evening are under the direction of Staff Master Sergeant John R. Schwartz, United States Air Force, retired. Please stand. Go ahead.
Will you join with me in prayer? Creating God, we are so glad to be gathered in this place together to do the work of this community, to train and educate leaders, and to lead ourselves. In this time of movement, may we continue to be reminded that you are doing new things in us. May you inspire us to lead boldly, to create safe places, and to teach with open hearts and minds. May you give our administrators and staff a passion to continue to care for the students that this school district brings up. May you continue to plant your seeds of wisdom in this time before us as new things evolve and unfold, and give us hearts that we may keep our students and staff and faculty safe throughout this time. May you be with us in all that we do. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Others. Oh, arch. Hold hard. Alt. Oath. And arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Arms. Post. Oh, march.
You may be seated. Board member Julie Heineman will read the district's vision and mission statement for the benefit of the audience.
Our vision at CFISD is formed from the acronym LEAD: to learn, empower, achieve, dream. LEAD. Our mission is to maximize every student's potential through rigorous and relevant learning experiences, preparing students to be 21st century global leaders.
Thank you, Ms. Heineman. We will now proceed with the recognitions portion of the agenda. I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Covey. Just one little thing I want to make sure the community is aware of before I turn it over to Mr. Garcia. Over the last couple of years, Cypress-Fairbanks ISD has been working to implement an online registration system that will provide greater convenience for parents and guardians. Our online registration can be accessed from a computer, smartphone, or tablet any time of the day or night with a device that has a camera. Parents, guardians can also scan and upload the documents that are required for registration, making the process completely remote. This is more relevant than ever as we prepare and as we have begun the 2020-2021 school year. And just one more way that our district is working to lead safely. Information regarding our new student registration process is available on our district website at www.cfisd.net. Parents, guardians with questions can contact the campus directly or the Student Services Admissions Hotline at 281-517-6342. This time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. President Covey, Board of Trustees, tonight we are excited to introduce to you and to the CFISD community our new Assistant Superintendent for Secondary School Leadership, Ms. Sarah Hardy. Be okay to clap now.
Oh, yay!
I will give a brief overview of Sarah's professional experience and then provide her an opportunity to address the board and introduce the family members she has present in the audience. Sarah recently started her 20th year as a principal. She served 7 years at Cypress Springs High School and is in her 13th year at Cypress Lakes High School, the only principal they have had. She also served as an English teacher, assistant principal, and associate principal at Jersey Village High School. Sarah's been a mentor for new principals and was selected by her peers as the Region 4 Secondary Principal of the Year on 2 different occasions. She participated in the Rice Educational Entrepreneurship Program, the Harvard Leadership Series, and has served as the UIL Regional and Area Music Chairperson. She is a member of the CFISD Reopening Committee and is in the process of becoming a nationally certified mentor. Sarah enjoys reading and making lists of the places that she would like to travel to. She loves to watch basketball, any team and any level, and she loves to visit her parents in Kentucky. Please join me in congratulating Sarah Hardy.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Mr. Covey, Dr. Henry, Board, I can't thank you enough for this honor to get to serve our schools in this way. And I want to thank you for 39 years. I've only been in Cy-Fair ISD, and I have learned so much in the 3 schools that I've been in, Jersey Village, Cypress Springs, and Cypress Lakes. I've had the opportunity to work with amazing teachers, amazing administrators, boards, support staff, and most of all, incredible students who have certainly grown me up throughout the years. And I hope that all those things that I've learned from those people, I can carry into this new position and make you proud. I do have some family members here today. My daughter, Catherine, her fiance, Brandon, and my son, Stephen. They're all members of the CFISD family. One's at Bain, one's at the Carpenter Center, and one's at the Carlton Center. And I am so proud to have them as a part of our family, both our personal family and as our Cy-Fair family. So thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it. I also want to thank my family that's out watching because they are at home, because they're getting ready for school tomorrow, which is, of course, the most important place to be on the campus, because the campus is where it happens. I've very much grown to know that, and I look forward to supporting our campus principals in every possible way. Again, thank you so very much.
We will take a 4.5 minute break. No, I'm sorry, 5-minute break to visit with Ms. Hardy, and then we'll come back and we will get into the public comments. So a 5-minute break from right now. Okay, public comments. 2A, patrons who are duly registered per policy BED local may address the board and make public comments on an agenda item during or before the board's consideration of the item. The board may allow public comment on agenda items at all meetings. The board will continue with the remaining agenda after the registered patrons have had an opportunity to speak. As you know, this is a 2-minute period. The green light will come on when you start. The yellow light will come on 30 seconds before the end, and then the red light comes on when 2 minutes are up, and we ask you to please summarize and complete. So first up is Donna Lord. Donna?
Good evening, I'm Donna Lord, President of Cy-Fair TSTA NEA. I am also a middle school teacher and taxpayer in the district. Cy-Fair ISD for all. We see this logo everywhere in the district. But really, is Cy-Fair ISD really for all? Almost a week ago, we began a new school year with students returning both in person and online through Cy-Fair ISD Connect. Most campuses have directed their teachers to teach both the face-to-face and connect students together in real time. Unfortunately, this model is not providing equitable educational opportunities for all students. A teacher cannot give proper and equitable attention to both connect students and face-to-face students at the same time. As a result, both groups are missing out on valuable educational opportunities. It is clear that the people responsible for this model have not been in a classroom teaching students for a very long time. However, there is still time to mitigate this catastrophe. Connect students should be taught by a dedicated teacher only teaching Connect students. And face-to-face students should only be taught by a teacher teaching face-to-face students. This is really the only way to ensure equitable education opportunities for all students. Excuses about how hard and how difficult this would be are really not acceptable. This district has expected and required teachers to do the impossible, and we've stepped up. Now it's your turn. Do the right thing by these students. Provide them with proper, equitable educational opportunities for all. Thank you.
Tara Cummings. And you want to come over to this one?
Good evening. I'm the parent of 2 students, and they are both virtual learners through CFISD Connect. And it is not working, much like the teacher who just spoke. My kids are not getting the education that they deserve. They are spending time in tears and frustrated, and their teachers are killing themselves to troubleshoot live while also trying to teach the students face-to-face. No one is getting what they need. It is not equitable in terms of, even though no one is getting what they need, my children at learning virtually are getting less than those face-to-face. If my children were in special education, they would be getting even less. If my children did not have access to a printer or a touchscreen laptop, which I just learned apparently we have when there was a requirement for a touchscreen for an activity for my high school kid. There is no way to do this equitably, reasonably, or tenably. We have to provide dedicated teachers for CFISD Connect students and dedicated teachers for face-to-face students. This blended model is not working. It is not tenable. It is not equitable. So I urge you to do the right thing and provide dedicated teachers for each model of students. Thank you.
Dana Alexander.
Hello, my name is Diana Alexander, and I'm an employee in Cyfair ISD. Thank you so much, board members. I just wanted to comment that this model and what we're trying to accomplish is unsustainable. At this point, we're waiting for the COVID dashboard and assurances from the board that communication about cases will be open. Right now, we have 1,116 confirmed cases in the zip code 77040 where my students live. So we have the responsibility to keep them and their families safe. We have a gap from when a person goes home when they need testing and when others might be notified while they wait for their results. In the meantime, community spread will continue to our school's detriment. Until this point, there has not been a concerted effort to get input from stakeholders, and that leaves staff feeling like we are disposable. I got a text from my 19-year-old daughter who's at college saying, "Mommy, I don't want you to die." Somebody's mommy might die, and we should all be working together to make sure that doesn't happen. I yield my time, but I will not stop speaking up. Thank you.
James Robertson.
Good evening, and thank you for the time. My wife is a third grade teacher at one of your elementary schools. Up until about a week before the school year started, they were led to believe that they would be doing one or the other, hybrid or in person. A week before, it's dropped on them that the teachers would, in fact, be having to administer both programs. Like you've heard already, it's not sustainable. My wife works from the time she wakes up to the time she goes to bed, including the weekends. I drop her off at school, I pick her up because she's too exhausted to drive. Every day when I pick her up, when she gets in the truck, she's in tears. She's ready to quit. 1 week into the school season, she's ready to quit. She's not the only one either. By nature, teachers are rule followers. They are committed to self-sacrifice for the greater good. They love their kids. They truly would do anything for their kids. And because of that, because of their very nature, They won't stand up and speak for themselves. You're abusing them for their very nature. It's not right. I'm going to yield the rest of my time and let you guys listen to the rest of the people, because I know people have plenty to say. Thank you.
Dr. Sterling Allen.
I had a witty thing to read to you guys, but after listening to the comments, I do want to say I think y'all are doing a great job. You're doing as best you can in a really horrible situation, and I want to say thank you to that. My only complaint is about our early elementary students and the platform Schoology. There are incredible challenges there, challenges that we didn't expect, because it's a file-based directory instead of a visual program where they can click on a graphic interface. I hope you'll consider just exploring other options in the near future. But again, I want you to know, I think y'all are doing a great job and doing your very best, just like all of our teachers, all of our students, and all our parents. Thank you.
Tracy Manley.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Manley, and I'm a pre-K teacher here in the district. Thank you for the opportunity to get to address you. Let me first start off by saying that I'm a teacher who has taught for 13 years here in the district, same school. I was highly honored last year when I was recognized as Teacher of the Year, COVID Teacher of the Year. But now I go to sleep crying. I do not sleep through the night. I wake up crying and I start my day that way. Why? Because the teachers at my school are going through reopening of our school without any leadership. For example, not one meeting with my grade level team has happened since March, before March. Not one time has my team been asked for input, suggestion, ideas, or for opinions. And I could go on and on. I teach pre-K, 4-year-old babies entering school for the first time, learning through play. But picture this. A small room, 14 face-to-face children, 3 adults, student tables, work tables, Promethean boards, 2 computer carts, wooden kitchen play sets, playhouses, buckets to separate toys, 14 nap mats at rest time laying side by side against each other. Social distancing is simply not achievable, and no one seems to care but me. I already have 3 students out and 1 being referred for COVID testing today. I have expressed my concerns over and over and my need to sit down and talk about this, but no one will sit down with me from my campus. I've had 2 logical solutions, but nobody will tell me why they won't work. One is we have an empty portable building sitting on the campus. Why can't I use it? My partner is having to teach Zoom out of a closet. I have only been told that I take things too personally and to just relax. I am taking it personally. I will take a bullet for my students, but I cannot protect them against COVID under these situations.
Thank you very much. We need to hear it from other people. Thank you.
I didn't see that.
Haley Green.
Good evening. I am the mother of a first grader in this district, and she's also in the Horizons program. Over Zoom, the voice of my daughter's teacher is muffled, much like mine is right now, as her teacher tries to teach 14 in-person students and 9 virtual students simultaneously, battling technology alongside all the usual classroom disruptions one would expect with first graders. Students, keep your masks on. Pull them up, please. No, we are not touching someone else's materials right now. Don't forget to mute yourself, John Smith. John, please mute yourself. The mute button is on the left of your screen. Now our teacher's screen sharing is stuck and Zoom has kicked us off once again. I have been at my daughter's side virtually every second of her virtual first grade, and we are struggling. How much more difficult must this be for students with 2 working parents, for students with disabilities, for families who speak languages other than English at home, for our teachers who are attempting the impossible every day? No one's needs are being met by this hybrid model. Cyfair ISD has had more than 6 months to face the realities of pandemic education, and the hybrid method is an ineffective solution. Frustrated parents are already withdrawing students from the district. Virtual students will now be sent back in droves for the second grading period. But we need parents to keep students at home to allow for social distancing at school. What is the plan if all 23 students in my daughter's class go back in person? What is the plan when teachers and substitutes get sick due to overcrowded classrooms, whether from COVID or just the common cold? It is not too late to get back on course. We should begin by consulting our teachers, who are the real experts in creative solutions. We need to jettison this hybrid model, respect our teachers' preferences for in-school and virtual teaching.
Thank you very much. Nisha Thies. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that.
My name is Nisha Tice. I am a parent to a third grader at Horn Elementary, and I just want to take a minute to really commend the teachers. I cannot thank you enough for the dedication, the commitment, and the enthusiasm you all have shown in the face of a really bad situation, and you are appreciated. I hope you know that. There are lots of parents that appreciate you, and we can't thank you enough for what you're doing every day. That being said, I don't know how this is sustainable. The virtual and the face-to-face, I see our teachers struggle with it, even though they try not to show it, and they try to show enthusiasm and grace and patience because they've practiced it all the time, but they are dealing with something they haven't and something we haven't. And I don't know how we can go on doing a face-to-face and virtual with teachers that are overworked already. The technical difficulties are not their fault. It's simply they don't have a dedicated resource, it seems like. They don't have people that are looking out for them in the classroom. The kids that are using the Zoom, some don't, I don't think, speak English as their first language, and they are already behind. And I fear for those kids that are going to fall further behind if they don't have parents that are there to help them, especially the elementary age kids. I've already heard a couple of those kids say they don't have mommy or daddy at home to help them. And I feel for them because the teacher can only do so much from her classroom. Second of all, I worry about the time that they are on the computer screen. I was under the assumption that they were only going to be on the computer screen.
Thank you very much. We need to move on. I'm sorry.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Mariah, and Mariah, I can't tell what your last name is. What is it? Thank you, Mariah.
Hi, my name is Mariah Notchmedy, and I'm a teacher here in Cyfair. And I left school on Friday frustrated, overwhelmed, beaten down, just like so many parents and students and teachers here in our district. And maybe those frustrations were around Google permissions or Schoology crashing or not figuring out the link for Zoom. But I want you to remember that for Spanish-speaking students, this problem is compounded. If English is not your first language, it is so much harder. I think about Carlos, who is in my 5th period, who has to translate all of the district materials for his mom into Spanish. Or Senora Diaz, who wants to help troubleshoot Schoology, but the best the district has offered her is a link to a YouTube video and the description that says, check the captions. Well, I've checked those captions and they're not there. There are no subtitles in Spanish. In a district that is 60% Latino, we are not serving those students. The majority of our families come from Spanish-speaking households, but we're not providing equitable language access. Tonight, the board will sign condemnation of racism. And this is something y'all have been talking about for months. This is my 3rd board meeting talking about racism. And if you just continue to put it in writing, but don't put any intention or anything actionable behind it, you are not doing anything to address the racism and the lack of opportunity for all here in Cyfair. So tonight, I'm asking you to commit to equitable language access in all district communications, videos, Facebook, emails from the school. There should be somebody at the district who can translate things into Spanish. Second, I ask that you also commit publicly to transparent and timely data on on discipline and issues, because we know our Black boys are over-policed in our schools. I ask that you commit to publicly and transparently give data about our enrollment in our GT programs, because our Black and brown students are underrepresented, even though they make the majority of our students. I thank the board for condemning racism, but y'all still got work to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul Langone? Langone? Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you. My name is Paul Langone. I'm a teacher in the district. I'm also a former Teacher of the Year. My wife and I both are teachers in the district, and this last week, I would say we worked roughly about 80 hours, I would say. Most teachers are probably working at least 60 hours a week, and that's at a minimum, and I don't think they're getting to do what they need done in 60 hours a week. My brother is a firefighter and a captain here in Houston, and I remember the long hours he worked during Hurricane Harvey. While we aren't first responders, one thing is for sure, we are definitely essential workers at this point. It's very obvious to me. This is our Hurricane Harvey right now, and it will be for the rest of the semester and possibly the rest of the school year. I am so proud of the teachers and yes, the administration and the support staff for how hard we are working. I wonder when fatigue might set in for some of these teachers and these administrators. Sorry. The most common word I've heard in the last week from teachers is exhausted, and it's only the first week. You don't normally hear that word till November. Right now, we are running at 150%, in my opinion, 100% on contract and 50% at home, doing lessons and Schoology. Schoology is all-encompassing, but there is a huge learning curve for all, parents and students. And with home learners, they're working so hard as well. Parents, please know we are working days, nights, and weekends to do our best to provide a proper education to the best of our ability for your children. Many teachers will be putting their families second, unfortunately, even more than normal this school year.
Thank you, Mr. Langone.
Thank you. Thank you to all the teachers.
Jesse Lands?
Hello. I know several dozen teachers throughout the district, and I can say over the past several weeks, maybe 2 to 3 of them have had more than a day off in the past month. Most of them spent 50% to 75% of their summer working. They're just getting beat up on the ground, period. They're teaching 2 classes. They're preparing for third for those individuals without technology at home. This is with a team. My wife has a team of teachers working with her. What about the teachers that are individuals? They're doing this all by themselves. Many teachers are spending, as has been said, 60 to 70 hours a week working to prepare for class. It's been said that the Schoology was pre-made, had all this all this information in there. That's a lie. It doesn't. I've watched them all put this stuff in. It's not easy. Takes several hours to several days to get 1 week worth of content in there. Teachers' breaks are being micromanaged. They've been told how many seconds they have to use the restroom between classes. Do you want to be told how many seconds do you have to use the bathroom? Teachers, I know at least half a dozen teachers who broke down in tears. Teachers that 20 plus years have been asking and counting, when can they retire? When can they get out? Teachers asking their spouse, hey, can we make it if I quit right now? And that's sad. Teachers are, thought this was the most fulfilling job ever, regretting every decision they've made to become a teacher. It's just not a sustainable model. When the cracks happen, When stress breaks, it's going to spread. When one teacher crumbles, it's going to spread to the others. And then you're going to start losing teachers in droves. It's not going to happen. It's not going to make 9 weeks, and you're going to start losing teachers.
Thank you. Nikki Cowart?
Unions have been the only powerful and effective voice working people have ever had in the history of this country. That's actually a quote from Bruce Springsteen, believe it or not. My name is Nikki Cowart, and I'm the president of the local Cypress-Fairbanks chapter of the American Federation of Teachers. I come back to the podium here tonight to remind the trustees and the administration of the same 3 basic values I shared here this same time last month. Number 1, the health and safety of students, teachers, and staff has to be the top priority. Number 2, teachers, support staff, and parents should be authentically involved in planning discussions, and all staff should be given regular opportunities to offer their opinion. And number 3, the district's plan should actively promote equity for all students, especially our Black students, brown students, and students from economically disadvantaged backgrounds. More times than not, AFT has been a proud partner with Cyfair ISD, and we know teachers are essentially partners. Our teachers have built strong bonds and relationships with families. In my role as president of the union, I've been blessed with opportunities to tour Cyfair ISD campuses over many years and grow a trusting relationship with not only our members, but many campus principals as well. She has since retired, but one of my most favorite Cyfair principals, Gina Guidry, once shared the greatest, most simple words of wisdom. Ask Gina, how do you do it? You run a tight ship here, but your entire campus seems to operate so efficiently. And she shared with me, happy teachers mean happy students, and that means happy parents. I think that adjective is interchangeable with other words as well. Healthy and supported teachers mean healthy and supported students and families. This COVID pandemic has altered nearly every facet of our work, as we have repeatedly heard the plea tonight to be flexible.
Thank you. We will now proceed to the board comments portion of the agenda. 3A, any board member may make a comment during this portion of the agenda without prior posting being required. Comment items may not pertain to the character of any students, staff, or board member and may not be discussed or deliberated upon at this meeting. I'll start on my right side. Mr. Sarabia, do you have any comments you'd like to share?
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for coming and sharing your wealth of experience and knowledge here. It is duly noted. On a lighter side, I'm excited to have the school year start, and that's not a detriment to anything you guys are trying to bring about. But I am excited for the school year. I'm excited for the 2021 class. I'm excited for the extracurricular activities going on. I'm also excited for the challenges that are coming and the trust I have in the administration that they can hear the community and know that they are working 24/7 to try to solve the problems as they come. We also have an important thing to sign today. It is not to be taken lightly, and we're not to, and it is very much forthcoming. We're just there. We got to visit Rowe Middle School a week and a half ago, and that was very exciting. The team did outstanding. It's a new school with with so much to give. It's going to be a groundbreaking community there. It's nothing that I've ever seen before, and it has a chance to set standards way above. And hopefully, once the elementary school is there, great things will happen there. I trust that very much. The administration, Dr. Henry and Mr. Colby and the rest of the trustees, they are working very hard. And the teachers, I hear from them also. I hear the pleas on the side. I related a story earlier today to another group on how the same stories you tell now is the same stories that she was saying. But at the very end, she had a good finish to where, she always likes to think the glass is half full, but right now it seems to be half empty. And you guys are fighting a fight that doesn't seem to be getting any easier for y'all. But we are trying, and we do hear your pleas. I guarantee you that we are. And for everybody out there, persevere through and trust in us. I can't make promises, but I can tell you we're trying.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Heineman. I know, I didn't want you to get bored.
Shaking it up. First, I want to say I'm sorry that my phone made a noise. I actually had it on silence, but there's one person who is specially set up that if she calls me, it makes a noise, and that's my daughter at college. So then she said, sorry, you're in a board meeting.
She just said
Sorry.
send money, right?
No. So I apologize for that. First, I want to say thank you. This lovely mask was made by one of our local grandmas and her son, Philip. So Miss Rose, thank you for the mask that you made for the board. We appreciate your generosity. I also want to say a heartfelt thank you to the teachers. As a parent, I see how hard my child's teachers are working, and I hear your voices, and we read your emails, and we know how hard it is, although we can't possibly know because you're the ones doing it every day. But I want to say thank you for your efforts. Knowing that it's going to get easier doesn't make it easy now. I understand that. But please know that you are appreciated and you are loved. I wanted to, I'm skipping the other 9 pages, Dawn, that I wrote. I wanted to remind everyone that there's an election coming up. National Voter Registration Day is September 22nd. The deadline to register is October 5th. Typically, we go into all of our high schools and we register our eligible seniors to vote in their government economics classes. Because we're not able to go into the classrooms this year, the League of Women Voters partnered with the school district, with the teachers, to provide a video and voter registration materials so that all of our seniors will have the opportunity, if they're eligible, by their birth date to vote, to register to vote. I appreciate the League of Women Voters doing that. If you'd like to check the current status of your registration, you can go to harrisvotes.com. That's that. The last thing I wanted to just talk a little bit about was, again, as a parent, I have learned the hard way that the quickest way to totally annoy a teenager is to tell them about how it was when we were in school, right? Because that doesn't matter. No one cares what it was like when we were in school. Not only is it annoying, it's disrespectful to them. What matters is the experiences of students today. And today's students are experiencing things that no other students have before. Today's students are the first to experience going to school wearing masks, social distancing in classrooms, learning virtually through new platforms amid fears that this global pandemic has brought into our homes, our schools, our businesses, and our families. We need to give students the space to express their feelings about all of this and to have input into how we work through this together. So I encourage district and campus administrators and leaders to seek out ways to incorporate student voices, to listen, engage, and involve students. Unprecedented times can be opportunities to try new ideas, new tools, and new ways of doing things, and something good could come from that for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heineman. Mr. Jackson.
I'll join my colleague, Ms. Heineman, to remind everybody about the end of an important time period. That's the census. It's wrapping up. The greatest source of child development funds in the state of Texas happens to be block grants, all of which get allocated based upon the census. Texas is running about 9% behind where we were at the last census, so it matters. When the pandemic was recognized in March, I shifted my board approach, as Don Ryan would say, from being a crop duster to using the matrix of strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats. When I was a newly minted chief financial officer, the first year the company I was with found itself on the front page of the Houston Chronicle and was the lead story in all 3 major television channels. In my subsequent interview with the FBI, they mentioned that there was a family in the Southeast and a family in the Midwest that were unhappy, and they suggested I obtain and look into extortion insurance. Roll forward years, I'm now a chief financial officer of a publicly held company, preparing to testify in federal court, and somebody comes into my office, a rather beefy-looking fellow, who tells me that he's from a family up north and that his boss had never lost any money. My secretary received phone calls, which then prompted phone calls to the U.S. Marshal's office. When I went in to testify, I was escorted by the marshals into the courtroom. I testified. Ultimately, we won the case. People lost money. A bit of humor, the marshals did not escort me out. I asked them to do so, and they just laughed. They said, "You've already testified. It doesn't matter." I would also note that a former colleague with whom I served, who's now a county judge, had a press conference on threats and wrote a half-page op-ed on them. Threats are always inappropriate, and I would say a threat against one is a threat against all. I'm a great fan of hyperbole and oration, but we need to be careful when we use our words that we do not encourage others to take steps which are inappropriate. My heart and thanks go out to parents who are trying to keep their children safe, but also provide and shelter them with the best education possible. If I could amplify that feeling, I would send the same emotion and thoughts and a tip of my hat to our teachers and our administrators during these trying times. I wish I could do more for each of you. I know the road will become bumpier before it becomes any smoother. Shareholders of the district, please have patience. Please create as little stress as possible upon the community, upon the staff and employees of this district. We will persevere. We will see the end of this, but it will be a long year. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Jackson. Dr. Ogletree.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to send my appreciations to the teaching staff and all those who work in our schools. This is quite a challenging year, and I know that you're going through quite a bit at this time, but also our administration here is going through quite a bit. I want everyone to know that no one is exempt from the strain, the hours, the tension, trying to figure this out. I made a promise at our last meeting, and I really believe this, that we will make the right choice, make the right decisions if it is going wrong, if children are not being educated, if there is a lack or a gap in safety and health, I do believe that there will be a course correction. We are just 5 complete days into the school year, and my prayers are that that things will go according to plans, that that there will be education that will take place, and that those who are at home will not suffer. And if we discover that they are, I do believe that this administration will make the necessary adjustments to do that. I'm concerned about the parents who are at work and their children are at home. That is almost an impossible scenario for working Schoology and doing virtual and following all the times on and off. But we've just got to keep pressing forward, listening and taking what I believe is constructive criticism, and making sure that we are trying to do the right thing. Our kids, those who speak a second language, those kids who are a low socioeconomic background, those kids who have parents that have to work, is I will say is what we really have to focus upon and do our best to get the information to see if they are able to follow what we have planned, and if they can't, and if it's not happening, I'll be the first to say let's try something else. I had suggested that there be virtual teachers and in-classroom teachers, and that's not the direction that we have taken so far. But we're just in 5 days. I am praying and also trying to be very supportive and encouraging to Dr. Henry and his team, and to any teacher that I talk to, any administrator. I'm going to continue to be very positive, and let's pray that this gets done. And thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. Ms. Blackshear?
Thank you, Mr. Covey. You know, I think I said to someone a couple of weeks before school started that only one of the unique things about this school year would be that everyone would be on a level playing field, because whether you have taught for 1 year, or new teacher, or whether you taught for 20 years or more, this was going to be totally new to everyone. And I want to say how much I appreciate all of our teachers, support staff, bus drivers, food service workers, custodians, everyone that is working together to try to make this the best situation possible for our students. And I know it takes a lot of patience on our parents' part too. On Sunday, after church, I sought out 4 different teachers at my church whom I knew taught in the district to see how their week had been. And what I heard from them was similar to what I've heard tonight, and all of the challenges that presented themselves this week while trying to teach in person and online. Now, having talked to my 4 grandkids who are all in person at school, when I talked to them, for them, their week seemed perfect. I mean, they said it was a great week. I asked them if how they felt about wearing the mask all day. They all said after a while, they forgot they were wearing a mask, and that there didn't seem to be an issue with students not wearing them, and they were just so happy to be back at school. It looked a little different. My youngest grandson, who is a 6th grader, was a little incensed that he now eats lunch with 2 dumb girls he doesn't know. But, that's a 6th grade boy for you. If that's the worst he could complain about, all was well in his world. But we are trying so hard to make it a safe environment for kids. And I'm going to have to say, it really distresses me when I hear that maybe some in our school leadership are not listening to their teachers and may not be receptive to the positive feedback they're trying to give about their situation in their classroom, because we have to make this work. And what I will say as a trustee is that I would ask everyone, we're just in the first week, and under good circumstances, the first week is always stressful, to please give it another 2-3 weeks, see how it goes. But definitely we want to hear your feedback, because, when I heard about these teachers talk about how their first 4 days were, my comment to my husband on the way home from church was, I'm really worried, concerned about the stress level of our teachers. So I feel like I know this board and this administration well enough that we will all be listening. And, if we start down this path and we see something's not working, I hope and I think we will make what corrections we can to make the situation work. And realizing it may not always work for everyone, but doing our best to make it work for teachers, students, and parents. But it's going to take a lot of patience on everyone's part. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. Mr. Ryan.
I think my peers have said a lot of great things, and really, if you just put it in a nutshell, this is no way how anyone wants to start school. But I think if you look at the history of our district, and this is what gives me confidence, if you look at the history of our district, is that we go above and beyond. We always have, we always will. We've had tough times before, and we've gotten through it. There's been bumps in the road. There's no doubt about that. But the one thing I'm confident of, and this is what I tell people is so important as a board member, is that you hire an effective leader. And I have no doubt in Mark. He's compassionate. What you say and what you feel, he feels 10 times over. I mean, he's got grandkids in the school. He takes the brunt of it. And he does it with a smile on his face. I don't know how he does it, because I just pretty much tell people sometimes to just, you know what. But I think that's a reflection. What we're going to see once we get through all this is you're going to see a reflection of a great leader, and where we're going to come through this is because of his leadership and because of our administration and because of the sacrifices that our teachers are making in the classroom. Yes, it sucks right now. That's just blunt. But I assure you, we will get through this. We always do. It's the true fiber of our community and our district. It's just who we are. So, I probably shouldn't have said that one word, but hey, it is what it is. But I think Tom had said it earlier, and a lot of the board members we need patience. And patience isn't easy when you're in the throes of chaos. It really isn't. I know that personally. I'm sure a lot of the teachers out there feel the same way right now. But I'm confident in our board. I'm confident in our administration. And I know that when we get to the end of the year, we'll look back and go, man, we nailed that one. We did great. So thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. On another subject, I'd like to share that recently the State Board of Education approved 5 of 8 charter applications that were submitted by the Texas Education Agency. Our own Julie Heineman testified in front of the State Board of Education asking them not to do this. This will affect a number of school districts across the state, including Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth, and South Texas. The approximate cost to the districts that are affected will be a loss of approximately $78 million annually and $425 million in 10 years. And in addition, this will cost the state of Texas an additional $180 million due to the charters getting more dollars per ADA than public schools. Some of these charters are headquartered out of New York, Florida, and California, where a part of that money will be sent. People, if you don't realize what charters can do to public education, you need to step up and talk to the State Board of Education and also make your feelings known to every legislator that you know and you can talk to. Now, on the subject we had tonight, it breaks my heart to hear some of these stories that are shared. But let me also tell you that in the past 3 weeks, when we started the professional development, as many people as we heard talk here tonight on a negative, I have heard that many and more who have come to me to thank me for what the administration has been doing. Not that it's easy, because it certainly isn't. But I'll also tell you that from my time on the board, and I have been on the board for a while, but when I got on this board, I thought I knew everything about Cyfair, but what I knew was the area where I lived, which was in one area specifically for a long period of time, and I knew the elementary, the middle school, and the high school. When I got on this board, I realized, and this is one of the things I like about us being an open board where you can live anywhere and be on this board. You don't have to live in a specific area. But when I got on this board, I realized that there was a huge overview of things that I had no idea of that affected all of the other facilities and the 80-something thousand other students that I had never taken into consideration. So I feel like that this board has to be open to look at the entire situation and make decisions that we feel are best for everybody. It may not be something that's best for you as an individual, but we look at it as being best for everybody. And to add a little note to that, I have never had so many negative texts and emails sent to me as I have in the past 3 weeks. And the amazing thing to me is they don't sign their name, but they're certainly willing to send remarks that I would never repeat to anybody. But it's just amazing that if you don't have the guts to tell me who you are and stand up for what you believe, I don't want to listen to what you've got to say. So I personally have a problem with that. But what I will say, and that's basically backing up everybody on this board, we want to take everything into consideration, and we want the best for this district, because this district has been a leader for the past almost 80 years. And there's no reason for us to turn our head and say we're not going to be in the future. This is going to be a change. This is a change. One of the things I see that is a positive is technology is certainly being incorporated a lot more than was before. And I'll tell you, about 4 years ago, and this board goes out and visits schools, facilities. I had been working because I am a challenged senior that doesn't understand technology a lot. And I'd been working with a lady at one of our middle schools who was training me on how teachers could actually use technology. This was probably 5 years ago. There was a young man sitting in the back of the class. This is a middle school. And after the bell rang and he got up and left, I thought maybe he was in timeout or whatever they call it in middle school. And I asked the teacher, I said, was he in trouble? Is that what he's doing? She said, no. He wanted to take geometry, and we don't offer that in middle school, so he's zooming in to one of our high schools. I thought, okay, that's pretty cool. That's technology being used how it should. And this young man was advancing himself into what he wanted to be doing. Go forward about 3 or 4 months, and I'm visiting one of our high schools, and we walk into the math class, and I see 6 computers on the front row, and then the students are all behind it. And a great big screen, or what do you call those things? Yeah, the Promethean. That might have been for, anyway. So I saw that, and I asked her, I said, what is this? And she said, oh, these are different middle school students that are taking geometry, and I'm teaching them as well as my class. And I was said, my God, I was just over at this middle school a few months ago, and this young man was taking it, and all of a sudden I see this note pop up saying, hello, Mr. Covey. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. So y'all, this can be a positive. So I'd like to see us try to make it as much a positive as we can. And I think I've overtalked my time frame. Yes.
Also, I think major kudos to our operations staff. Man, the work that y'all did just so we could open our doors is amazing. So thank you guys.
Ms. Blatcher?
One thing I neglected to say, while I've heard tonight about some school leaderships not listening, I have heard many teachers tell me how their principals and school leadership are doing a great job leading them through this challenging time. So I know those are the minority. Thank you.
Okay, now we are up for citizen participation. Patrons who have duly registered per policy BED local may address the board regarding matters of concern or interest to the district, other than the character of any student, staff, or board member. The board may not act upon any matter that is not listed on the action item portion of the agenda. We only have one speaker tonight, and that's Mr. Brian Henry.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board and the Cy-Fair community. My name is Brian J. Henry. I'm here as a candidate for the Texas House. The community recently has been talking about how to reopen schools safely, and I commend everyone for their hard work in doing that. Tonight, I came to talk about public school funding. The Texas economy has been in recession for months. Our state budget has been negatively impacted due to reduced sales tax revenue and low oil prices. The comptroller says we have a shortfall of over $4 billion. So make no mistake, public education funding will be on the ballot this fall, and there will be an epic funding fight next spring. I urge everyone who cares about our public schools to think hard about who you want to have in the ring throwing punches for this district, for these schools, for your students. Do you want someone who may be lukewarm on public education, who may do the bare minimum because they're not personally or professionally invested in our public schools? Or do you want someone who lives and breathes public education, who has worked in public schools for the last decade, whose children will attend public schools? I remember the cuts from 2011. I was a first-year teacher in Humble ISD, and I was laid off because of those cuts. We cannot allow 2021 to be a repeat of 2011. I urge everyone to use their voice to advocate for public education and to vote this fall. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. For our next agenda item, signing of a resolution, I would ask that Dr. Ogletree to please read the CFISD's resolution condemning racism and affirming the district's commitment of opportunity for all. After Dr. Ogletree has read the resolution, we, the Board of Trustees for Cypress-Fairbanks ISD, will sign the resolution individually. Dr. Ogletree.
Mr. President, thank you. And again, I thank Julie Heineman and Gilbert Saravia for helping to draft this document. It reads as follows: a resolution condemning racism and affirming the district's commitment of opportunity for all. Whereas the Board of Trustees of Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District, the third largest school district in the state of Texas, deem it necessary for the respect and dignity of our employees, students, parents, business partners, and community to promote the tenet prescribed in the Declaration of Independence, being all men are created equal. Whereas recent events in our country have brought to the forefront the disturbing issues of racism, systematic racism, discrimination, injustice, and inequality. These issues go against the motto of our district, opportunity for all. It is our desire that this motto become ingrained in our culture and behavior, so much so that Cypher ISD is a district that does not tolerate racism. Whereas it has been 56 years since the Civil Rights Act of 1964, whereas racism, systematic racism, discrimination, prejudice, injustice, and inequality continue to exist and are antithetical to what CFISD strives to be. Whereas we have an obligation to help shape the lives of our students toward a better America, free of racism and systematic oppression. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we lead through policy and practice to eliminate racism, systematic racism, discrimination, injustice, and inequality in any and all its forms. We desire all schools to be no place for hate schools, as well as require the study and celebration of the history of all races, ethnic groups, genders, and differences. We resolve to engage an outside entity to conduct an equity audit that will lead us to develop an equity policy or policies so we can better strive to close the gaps of opportunity and achieve among ethnic groups, races, genders, and those of low socioeconomic status and learning differences. Further, we resolve to encourage our district to be a place for transparent dialogue among our board, staff, school personnel, students, and parents on the issue of race and racism, and there be no retribution for individuals or groups for sharing what is perceived, believed, or experienced. We pledge as board members to engage in continuing education in the area of racism, discrimination, injustice, and inequality. In unity and agreement, we vote in affirmation and sign this resolution to be a part of our permanent record as a Board of Trustees on this, and today is the 14th day of September 2020, and it has a place for all of our signatures.
Marnie, I can't remember. We have already voted on this and accepted it, did we not? Yes, okay. So all we're doing tonight is signing what Dr. Ogletree has read, okay? Is there one specific one that we need to sign? And yeah, we can all sign on the same thing, or what are we going to do? How do we do that?
I think there's one at either everyone's place or Bob's place.
Well, that was just for reading Bob. You can start signing that one and just pass it.
Okay, so everyone, I will do the first one and then pass it on down.
I vote.
And I'm grateful to John and Gilbert and Julie for taking the time to put this together so well. And I'm also grateful for Tom because he made a little addendum to it that's why we put it off to sign for today. So I love the fact that this board believes that this is something that we need to do in front of the community. Angel, did you get the part of my head that's got hair, or did you miss that? Really? Let me come on back. Thank you, Board. The Board will now proceed with the reports portion of the agenda. 6A, the administration will provide an update on the reopening of CFISD. Dr. Mark Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Covey, trustees. We're going to have a brief presentation this evening related to the reopening. As been said many times today, we're 5 days into the school year now. We would have done it Thursday, but a couple of you could not be here. And we also thought it would be a good idea to make sure we had a full week under our belt. And then also, as Ms. Hull talks, she's going to talk this evening about the dashboard. And I know that's something that several people have asked about. But I really think the great equalizer in this country is education. And when you're talking about putting forth a resolution condemning racism and making opportunity for all, truly the great equalizer in this country is education. And the better the education, the better the possibilities in our country. And what we want to try to do, whether it's online or whether it's in person, we want to try to make sure that we guarantee the best possible education that we can. Certainly we're not there yet. We know we've got a ways to go, but we are committed as an administrative team to working with our campuses, our teachers, and our staff to make sure that we meet the needs of all of our students while, very importantly, trying our best to keep everyone as safe as possible. Safety is still the overriding number one goal, but with that goal of keeping everyone safe, we want to provide a quality education to our students because that's why we exist. Having said that, I'll turn it over to the chairperson of our reopening committee, Ms. Hull.
Good evening. I have the pleasure of providing you with an update on the reopening of CFISD, and I first want to start off by recognizing the members of that committee. It really was the work of a number of people. Our campus principals that served on that committee worked countless hours in trying to develop plans and train principals and provide that support. All of our support staff from transportation and operations, facilities, food service, communication, HR. I mean, there's just, it's endless, the number of people that have worked to try to make this as a successful reopening as possible. We know that it definitely has been a challenging reopening. We know that there's still work to do and things that we need to look at and possibly modify and adjust. But you have our commitment that we are going to continue to look at those things. We don't feel that our work is done, and we know that there are improvements that we can make, and we're committed to looking at those and finding ways to improve. You know, although it was challenging for our classroom teachers, and I'll be the first to say, that has been one of our greatest concerns as we've been planning all of this since April, is knowing that in the end the challenge was going to be in the classroom as teachers made that adjustment to teaching both face-to-face and remote. And on top of that, a whole new learning management system at the same time. So it was a Herculean task. And I do believe that there are modifications and adjustments we can make, and we're going to continue to look at that. But it was great to see kids. There was still an air of excitement when you kind of walked in buildings, even walked in facilities to see buses running, to see kids, you know, out and about. It really was exciting. And I tell you, it was great from the reopening committee perspective to see some of the work that that group has done and all the planning that they have gone through, to see some of that start to fall into place and to happen. And again, adjustments and improvements that we know we can make. Just a little bit about our enrollment. Our enrollment is down. I think we're seeing that trend, though, statewide. It's not anything that is unique to Cypress-Fairbanks. We're seeing it around the region, around the area, and across the state. We've been engaged in a couple of different meetings with superintendents across the state and those that had started prior to Cypress-Fairbanks, and most of those expressed concerns over the decline in enrollment. We're really uncertain what to think about that. We're just starting to analyze the data. You can see from the screen that we projected an enrollment of 118,498 as of Friday. Yes, at the end of day Friday, we were at 115,923. So we're about 2,500 off of our projected enrollment. Now, we always continue to grow throughout the year. We project enrollment based on what we call the October snapshot date. Where do we think we will be come October when we submit our enrollment to the state? And so we know that there's still time for that. There's still cleanup. Along with all the challenges our classroom teachers are facing, there's also the challenge of how to take attendance. I think the teachers that are still here can attest to that. And so we know that there's still some work to be done in trying to make certain we have kids coded correctly, that we've identified all the no-shows, or we have students all pointed in the right direction. As we started to look at the enrollment, though, as of Friday, we're seeing some areas where we see a significant decline in enrollment. Pre-K and K are the two that stood out the most, and I think a little bit of that is just fear from parents and with the whole virus, and wondering if it was safe and a good time for them to send their children to school. And so I think in some cases they've decided to wait and have delayed enrolling their children. You know, it's really sad as we think about pre-K and all the work that our CNI team did in the fall, and then, you know, we launched full-day pre-K in January, and we had just gotten started, you know, and then we had to close school in March. But we're not giving up on that. We're going to continue to move forward, and hopefully we're going to begin to recapture as many of those students as possible. Third grade and fifth grade was a little bit higher than what we saw in the other elementary grade levels, but I thought that was interesting. Fifth grade kind of stood out to me a little bit. At the high school level, we're actually a little over our projected enrollment already at this point in time. We're approximately 370 over, so high school students are with us. Although ninth grade was down a little, you can see that overall we're over our projected enrollment. Middle school is pretty much right on target. We're about 79 students below our projected enrollment at the elementary level. So then when you take those numbers, you can see that the biggest decline and where we're really missing the target is at the elementary level. And I'll go back just a second. I've had a couple of questions about the withdrawal codes. Are they going to private school? Are they going to homeschool? And the homeschool leaver codes are nothing alarming, a very small number. So there's a large number in the other category, so we're just going to have to study those and try to get a better determination of where those students are going. And we'll hopefully be able to provide you with an update next month. This just gives you, again, a summary of the learning plan selections and where we are. Approximately 55% of our students have selected CFISD Connect, and 45% have selected on campus, and then you can see those breakdowns by level. It really is, you know, a part of it may be just some frustration parents are feeling with doing the CFISD Connect, because that's new. That is new for our parents, it's new for students, it's new for teachers. So when you put all of that together, it creates a lot of challenges and a lot of frustration. But I do believe this in my heart, that as we continue to work through those issues and those problems, we continue to help and support each other, and especially help and support our classroom teachers, help and support those parents that are trying to figure this out and the best way to support their kids. I do think we're going to see significant improvements. But I am happy to say that our campus principals have been faced with a new challenge. They're receiving a large number of requests for students to return on campus. And so that's a good problem in my mind, because that says that parents, in looking at situations and maybe looking at the health and safety protocols that have been put into place and the work that our campus principals and their leadership teams have done to prepare those facilities, they're feeling more comfortable about that. So that's a good situation. What creates the challenge for our campus principals is that it's a very complex assignment in trying to determine which teachers are teaching virtual, which ones are teaching on campus full face-to-face. It does vary at campuses. It does vary by grade level. It does vary by content. It really depends on the number of students at each campus and how the principals are able to provide the best environment for all kids. If I pull out too many teachers to teach CFISD Connect, then I'm possibly increasing the number of students for on-campus instruction. And so they're trying to find that balance. The other challenge with the teaching assignments and doing Connect and on campus is it changes each grading period. That's not a decision that we've made as a district. That is a decision that the state has said that we can only hold parents to that learning plan selection till the end of the grading period. So they go through all this, they make assignments for who's teaching Connect, who's teaching on campus, and it can change completely at the end of that grading period. So I just share all of that, again, back to, I think, one of the comments that Dr. Henry and maybe some of the board members made. There's just a lot of things that we have to factor in as we're making these decisions. We're not making decisions in isolation. We're having to consider all these different factors. But again, we're committed to looking at that and seeing what we can do to make it better for our classroom teachers. Our technology distribution has been incredible. First, I can't say enough about the leadership Paula Ross has provided for her department, and with Katie Gentry, who I think is the director that's in charge of this entire initiative, and then also Karen Fuller working with our infrastructure and all of that and making certain all of this happens. And then on top of that, it wasn't just our technology team. There were departments across the district that stepped in to help and support them. The Berry Center just opened their doors, offered their people to try to help support this operation that's been going on in the Berry Center. Our transportation team, they were providing buses and transportation, transporting devices to the campuses. And then when we didn't have all the devices picked up at the campuses, they were dropping them off at students' homes. Our nutrition services team provided these carts and equipment that they can move technology around the Berry Center easily. So it has really been amazing to see just all of these different departments come together and work for a common goal, and that's to make certain that we're in the best position to provide a quality instruction for our students. As you know, our goal is to have a one-to-one initiative. Our goal is to have every single student enrolled in our district to have a device, a technology device of his or her own. And the supply chain has definitely created some challenges for us. To date, we have distributed 38,845 devices. So all of our CFISD Connect students are in good shape. We've distributed 7,200 hotspots for those students that do not have access to internet. The most recent update, Ms. Ross has indicated that she's hopeful that by the mid or end of October to have 11,000 to 14,000 additional devices that we can start distributing, and then we're hopeful that we can achieve our goal of 1-to-1 by the end of the semester. And so this really will make life a lot easier. In many cases, it even makes life a little bit easier in the classroom for the face-to-face students and the teacher. And we're just working diligently to make that happen. We had to prioritize the CFISD Connect students in receiving the devices because the face-to-face students had the advantage of having a classroom teacher there. So we needed to make certain that there was a device in the hands of the Connect students so they had access to a quality instruction as well. Curbside meals, again, this is a team and a department that has just been amazing. Since March, when the pandemic started and we closed the school district, they quickly pivoted and started providing curbside meals. Now they did that throughout the summer. Now they're running 2 operations, not just curbside. They're also feeding all of our face-to-face students on the campus at the same time preparing and distributing curbside meals. Because of the need to obviously and have all the staff busy on the campuses during the instructional day, they had to work out a schedule of distributing meals in the evening. So we distribute those 2 times a week, Tuesday and Thursday, from 34 different locations. And you can see there on Tuesdays, they distribute all the meals for Wednesday and Thursday. And then on Thursday, they distribute the meals for Friday, Monday, and Tuesday. So again, just an incredible department and great leadership by Darren Crawford. Our transportation department, I think Dr. Kane Smith would tell you this was probably one of the smoothest openings he's had. And again, this is a team, this is no easy feat. It's a very complex operation to figure out routing and bus service for all of our students in a district our size and the number of students that access transportation. I do think one feature that helped them be better prepared for the different routes that they had to run was the implementation of requiring students to register for transportation. I think this allowed them the opportunity to really plan and not have buses overloaded on that first day of school. So we received 30,707 transportation requests. I think there's actually been a slight update to the average bus load. I think now it's about 17.5 is the average bus load. They really have been working to ensure that we have as much social distancing on our buses as possible. Our average bus, our regular size buses, are 24 to 26 seats. So you can see that they, in most cases, are able to have 1 student per seat. The student-teacher desk shields, this was something that was really a late decision that we made in August, and I can't say enough about how quickly Matt Morgan and Bill Powell with facilities and purchasing went to work in trying to secure as many desk shields as possible for not only our teachers but for our students. And so to date, we have received all that we initially ordered. But we've had multiple requests. We've seen a significant increase in requests for specifically the student desk shields. It's taking many more than we initially thought, so we are in the process of trying to secure additional desk shields. I don't believe all of those desk shields have been distributed because we just are still kind of getting them in, but I think to date we've received all of them, correct? Correct. Okay, so we will be getting all of those desk shields out as quickly as possible. But again, this was just an added measure. I think it's something that makes our classroom teachers feel that there's another layer of protection. And I think parents feel that it's also a layer of protection for their students. So I think it's been a positive addition to our Lead Safely plan. Since our last board meeting, we had the opportunity to enter into an advisory support agreement with Memorial Hermann. This has really been a great step for us to receive their guidance, their review of our Lead Safely plan. It's an advisory team that includes 3 doctors. There's an infectious disease, an epidemiologist, and an internal medicine doctor. They did a very extensive and comprehensive review of our Lead Safely plan and then held a follow-up meeting with us and members of the reopening committee to just go through in detail their review of that plan and provide feedback and suggestions. But I can say that they were incredibly impressed with the plan, the level of detail, and again, how comprehensive it was. Offered a number of accolades and commendations for the items that were included in there. But as they ended up their presentation and their review of the plan, they said, you know, this is all great, but they felt that there were 3 key things that we really have to stay vigilant with. And those 3 things are universal masking, social distancing, and hand hygiene. They said that those 3 things are the key to successful reopening and remaining open. And that's important to stress, that it's not just getting the doors open. We have to continue to maintain those health and safety protocols and make certain that we're able to sustain that. I know that there's been some concern. I've responded to several emails. Our campus principals have responded to several emails about the use of face masks at the elementary level. That was a modification. Initially, when we released our plan, we were following the guidance that was included in the governor's order for face mask, and that it was 10 and older would be required to wear a face mask in public. And so we just kind of used that as our threshold for determining the developmentally appropriate. But on August 13th, the American Academy of Pediatrics released some guidance that extended that. They really felt that it was important for children as young as 2 years of age wear a face mask, and they felt that that was a key to a successful reopening. So we did modify our plan, and then Memorial Hermann, they agreed with that guidance from the American Academy of Pediatrics. So that is what triggered that modification. Another reason for that, not only that guidance from the medical professionals, but I think also at the elementary level, when you looked at the age 10 and older, at the elementary school, you would really only have children in grade 5 wearing face masks, and I think there were some concerns from some of our elementary teachers about not having that level of protection. So I do think it was something we felt was important, not only for the health and safety of our students, but for the health and safety of our staff as well. We have started the required COVID-19 reporting. I know that there have been some questions about this, and this kind of goes even into our dashboard. The Texas Education Agency recently released the requirement that all school districts across the state, effective their first day of instruction, would be required to report all positive cases to the agency, and that is done in conjunction with the Department of State Health Services. So in addition to any positive case of a staff or student on a campus, we also make those notifications to Harris County Public Health. When we do have a student or staff member that is confirmed positive on a campus, we provide a notification letter to all staff and students that goes out to those communities. And then we have started the practice of now weekly that is posted on the district website. We made our first report today, this afternoon, because it's due to the agency on Monday. The time or the window that the agency wants each week is they want to go from Monday through Sunday. So we had to complete through Sunday night, look at all those numbers today, finalize our report to the agency, and then post that information on the district website. Last week, we had 4 reported positive cases, 4 different campuses. They did include staff members. We had our first report at Salyards, 1 at Copeland, 1 at Yeager, and 1 at Joel. And those communities have all been notified of those cases. But that eventually will all tie into a dashboard. We're in the process of developing a dashboard, and I know everybody's saying, well, all the other districts have their dashboard. And I understand that we may be a little behind in having a very robust dashboard, but really I could not pull our technology services team away from the work that they were doing in preparing devices and getting devices distributed, supporting Schoology, and doing all that work to write a program for this data. So we have reached out, and we're going to sign an agreement with Qualtrics They have a solution that they're already providing. I think one of their current customers is the city of Houston. They work with many of the region service centers around the district, around the state, and then several other school districts. So they had a ready solution for us. They're just going to have to customize it to our needs. But in looking at the metrics and what we were going to be monitoring and evaluating as we move through this school year, we were struggling with that. Obviously, we have the county metrics, but we felt like we need to look at it more from a school district perspective and look at it even within our own boundaries of CFISD. So we consulted with Memorial Hermann. We asked them specifically, what do you recommend? What should we be monitoring as we're looking to make decisions about whether we need to limit on-campus instruction or we need to possibly consider completely restricting on-campus instruction, either at an individual campus or district-wide. They really encouraged us for the county metrics and monitoring what is going on at the county level, the big picture, Harris County. They encouraged us to just go straight to the Texas Medical Center, the TMC metrics. And you can see those are the 3 areas. Those are updated daily on the Texas Medical Center website. And we're going to pull all that data into our dashboard. So we're going to have that as a county look. In addition, they felt that it was really recommended and advisable that we also start looking at it within the boundaries of CFISD. So we're going to look at it in 2 different ways. We're going to look at it as far as the number of active cases in each zip code within CFISD, and obviously which campuses are located within each one of those zip codes, and then what are the number of actual active cases of staff or students at each one of our campuses or facilities. So when we put it all together and we look at kind of different levels and all of those different metrics, it kind of gives us an indicator if we're starting to see possibly an increase in the number of community cases, say by zip code in a particular school area. We know that we probably need to hone in and make certain that we're extra vigilant with our on-campus health and safety protocols at that particular campus. We need to make certain that we're not seeing a trend of an increase in cases of staff or students on that particular campus and stay ahead of that instead of getting into a red zone. So we're hoping we're going to present our proposal to our reopening committee on Wednesday, talk through that more. I've asked Dr. Ashley Claiborne, who she and her team obviously are very, very skilled and knowledgeable in working with data. She's taking the lead on this and working with Qualtrics and working with getting this project up and going. So again, you can just see it's taking every single department in this district in order to make this happen. But we'll, again, the number of active cases or reported cases for each week are posted on the district website. So I just want to make certain that that is clear. But once we have this dashboard up, it'll be real time. We don't have to wait and provide you a weekly report. We can enter that because it'll all be connected and it will all upload. A district our size with 92 campuses and multiple facilities, it's not easy to just pull that off very, very quickly. We hope to have that up October, I think, Dr. Claiborne, October, as far as the full dashboard. COVID-19 testing, this is something else since our last update to the board. I think I've shared this with the board in their weekly reports, but we have signed an agreement. Dr. Bernal and her team reached out to AFC Urgent Care, and as a district, we have signed an agreement with them so that we can immediately assign someone that's symptomatic, an employee, to have testing at AFC Urgent Care. It is free through the CARES Act, and then we have the ability to get that information and the results within 2 to 3 days. There are 2 reasons for this. One is so that we can quickly get results on employees that have exhibited COVID-like symptoms so that we can begin that contact tracing process sooner than later. And the second is if the employee is negative and they do not have COVID, then we're able to return them to work much sooner, and they do not have to remain out of work for the 10-day isolation period. So 2 goals that we achieve by having that testing agreement. Another agreement that we have entered is with Walgreens. Dr. Henry was really concerned that, on top of COVID, we're going to be entering flu season. So we're going to have multiple illnesses that possibly our staff members and students could be exposed to. So we have entered agreement with Walgreens for free, let me say that real fast, free flu shots. It's free with most insurance, but if an employee does not have insurance, the Walgreens will bill the district and we will cover the cost of those flu shots. And I believe that they're reaching out to each individual campus and facility and determining those individual schedules for testing or for shots. And I believe that is the end of my presentation, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. I have all of my experts in the room so they can assist.
Ms. Hull, that's a wonderfully in-depth report and appreciate it. I'm looking at the board. Does anyone have questions? Gilbert.
Not necessarily a question, but an applaud there for a job well done and nicely configured. What I want to point out to the community is that the last board meeting, we have different questions every time brought up by the community, and just give us a little bit of time, and you see the answers are being given as soon as the next meeting. The advisory support through Memorial Hermann was just outstanding, getting an outside entity to come in and telling us how we can do better and stuff. Great job. The testing, the urgent care so the employees can save those valuable days if tested negative and everything else. So that's another one that was brought up earlier in prior meetings too, though. So outstanding. Getting the flu shot. I think me and Ginger have ours scheduled for September 28th and stuff like that. We're ready to go and stuff. We're going to get ours done and stuff. So, and that's a great job of picking up the tab if the insurance doesn't work. Appreciate that very much, administration. Reporting of the COVID cases, that's another question that was brought up in prior board meetings of, where they're at. So now we're becoming transparent in that area too, where they can see it as on Mondays and stuff. So that's a great job again. Dr. Henry, you brought up something about $60 million earlier in a previous meeting that the district has spent. Can you enlighten us a little bit more on that?
Sure. Yes, sir, Mr. Sarabia. The biggest bulk of that are the devices that we purchased to go one-to-one, and then, of course, another $4 or $5 million for hotspots, and then Karen or Bill or someone could tell you all the different PPE that we've purchased, including what Teresa touched on, the desk shields, but also mask and sanitizing equipment, and what else, Bill? Okay. But we've already spent that amount, and we do anticipate that we don't know what the cost for subs will be this year, but it will be greatly increased over the past. So we're also going to have to account for that.
Well, thank you for that. And Tom had brought up in the last meeting we had where that figure is going to be going up. It's just going to go up per month, per week, whenever needed. But it's nice to see the administration. It's going to happen. And again, we appreciate the community coming out and voicing their concerns. But things are happening in a positive trend in that way. And I applaud Teresa and her team. Very well done.
Mr. Covey, if I could add.
Yes.
Many of the things that we are doing as a district, other districts cannot do because they do not have a healthy fund balance. So I would commend this board over the last 10 years, along with our financial department, and then basically everyone in this district. We've built up a very healthy fund balance. So if the federal government, if the state government doesn't come to aid us sometime over the next year, one of the promises we made when we started this year is that no one would lose their job. And we're going to be able to hold to that because of the excellent fiscal condition of the school district.
Mr. Jackson.
Gilbert, good job in touching all the areas that you did. I would point out to the viewing audience that we at the board receive updates that we cannot share until it becomes public information. So even though there are concerns expressed publicly and privately to us, all we can say is, please have patience. Please have patience. Gilbert touched on it. I'll do it again. The district has shown quick pivot points, and for a district of this size, that is truly remarkable. So a couple of questions, and some of these were answered during the presentation, but some I think bear repeating. Back in March and April, we talked about our counseling staff. We talked about the rollout of the mental health program. This is early in the school year, and I will ask this question off and on throughout this year. And Mark, I'm not certain who ought to take this, perhaps Teresa, or maybe Linda. Any sense on the emotional well-being of our staff and students? Can you give us an idea of where we are on that?
Mr. Garcia, do you want to speak to that? He oversees guidance and counseling, so.
Tom, we definitely appreciate that question, and that's something that we have been working on throughout this whole process, going all the way back to March, with several trainings that our first and foremost, our staff were able to be given. They were provided first and foremost so we could focus on taking care of the caretaker so they could take care of the students. You may be familiar, I think it was back in 2017 when we started the CFISD Wellness Counseling. This is an opportunity for all employees in the district to call and have a session, a counseling session with a licensed professional counselor and be able to share whatever anxiety they may have. And these numbers, we did pull the numbers for last year. If you just look from August 1st to the 15th of September last year, there were 2 sessions that we had. And then this year, we've had 30 sessions already. I know that that goes in line with some of the feedback that we received earlier, but we also looked at it as an opportunity that we PR'd this even more this year, and we want to make sure we provide all employees that opportunity to have the counseling that they may need as well. Mr. Franklin Sampson and his team, there's a long list of things that have been provided, not only for staff, but also for students and the community as well. And this is an area that we will continue to focus on. As you know, and as has been said several times, we're in unprecedented times, and we're not there yet. We've got to find additional ways that we can provide that support, not only to our staff, but our students and our community, and give our community tools that they can use to help their own children and everyone. I think it's safe to say that everyone has experienced more stress and anxiety since March than probably ever before. So we see this as just yet another opportunity to make sure that we're providing whatever services we can, especially focused around the mental health.
Excellent answer. Thank you, Roy. Kind of moving on in that same vein, and it's kind of cute. You know, I've talked about accommodations as a stage 4 cancer patient. Some of the viewing audience actually thought I was asking for accommodations for myself. And I will admit I did ask for one at the state level. Bob knows about this. I served on TASB, and TASB could not give me an accommodation, and Bob was very gracious to take my position. But we have talked about this, and so, Teresa, can you give us an update? Have we been able to bend in any fashion for our teachers and staff?
Absolutely, but I'm going to let Ms. Franklin come up, and I think she can give you more specific details on that. There's your report if you want.
So when we talk about accommodations, we've had multiple requests from staff, some related to their own personal concerns and some related to concerns of their family members. And so we have been really focusing on the ones under the law as it relates to their own personal concerns that meet the definition of a disability. And we have had the opportunity to provide accommodations related to, and we'll say, CFISD Connect only opportunities. But we don't have a lot of those opportunities in our district. As you've heard from the staff, we've had to implement a blended model with CFISD Connect and face-to-face. And so there are some staff that are doing CFISD Connect only because of their accommodations due to their own disability or medical condition related to COVID. So we have had some opportunity to implement that, but we have not been able to implement it completely for all staff that have made that request.
While you're there, I do want to say thank you. Just today, I did receive a communication, very, very heartwarming, from a teacher that you did provide the accommodation, and they are amazingly grateful. They're very humble. You know, it's kind of interesting. They also felt a little guilty because they knew that they received it and perhaps others did not. But I will say that that's something fairly common among cancer survivors. For those of us who survive, you do feel a little guilty about when you live and not everybody else has that same path. So thank you for taking those steps that you could take. Mark, I know it starts with you. You know, I mentioned in a board meeting that we had those conversations all the way back in March, and I asked for patience from staff, and it's very difficult to be patient. It's very difficult. Houston Chronicle had a great article today that talked about in times of high stress, it's very difficult to be patient. So I understand that. Thank you for doing that which you could do. And if opportunities present themselves in the future, I know that you will act on those as well. So thank you. Roy, let me go back to you. I guess this will be the fourth time that I've asked this question. And you're in charge of physical safety. And you updated us on the safety measures and enhancements on air quality. Where do we stand on those, and what enhancements have been made or planned for water fountain safety?
Mr. Jackson, an update is that we have implemented the majority of the things I mentioned to you in our previous board meeting. We have adjusted our schedules for operation of our air conditioning systems. We are starting those up 3 hours before and running them 3 hours after our normal occupancy time to allow us to flush out the building air system more each and every day. We've lowered the set point a degree to help out as well as part of that initiative. We've had our entire maintenance team go through every single air handler unit, fan coil unit, chillers, everything, and made sure we cleaned all the condenser coils. We made sure all the outside dampers were functioning properly and fully open so we can maximize the amount of outside air coming into our buildings. We have changed out all our filters. You've heard earlier some of the supply chain management issues we're experiencing. MERV 13 filters falls into that category, so we have them on order. As soon as they come in, we will be changing filters out where applicable that we can fit the MERV 13 filters in the system, and they will be changed immediately once we get the products and so forth. As for the water bottles, we have converted I think we have over 30 campuses to date that have been completed to where we have the water bottle fillers on some of our water fountains. Right now, I think we're looking at 4 for each secondary campus and 2 for elementary school campuses. We've actually ordered 295 of those. Again, those are coming in piecemeal. As we get them in, we're installing them immediately. We had a shipment that came in last week. We had crews working this weekend installing those at the campuses. We have another shipment coming in later this week, and we have crews lined up to install those as soon as they arrive in the school district.
And let me ask you a follow-up question. You mentioned it, but I think it bears repeating. we're doing this, but isn't it safe to assume that school districts across the United States and probably Europe and Australia are doing this as well?
Probably so.
And so when you talk about supply chain, it's also the fact that the industry just doesn't exist yet to satisfy the demand,
Absolutely.
but you are moving on it. And I know you'll keep us posted, but trust me, either I or perhaps Gilbert will be asking you these
Sure.
follow-up questions, because I think it's important for us to.
And I want to credit my team because we are staying on top of it, and we're actually trying to forecast what we think we need so we can get a jump on the curve ahead of any other school district out there. And I think that's enabled us to get the products that we've already got in place. You've heard about the desk shields. We jumped on that right away. We now jumped on the water fountain, water bottle fillers. The same thing with the MERV 13 filters. And we continually look and monitor all these initiatives out there. And if any new ones are coming out there, we're trying to stay abreast of them so that we can be the first one to try to implement.
Well, and I would say that you're right on target. I have relatives and friends who are teachers in other districts, and it does in fact appear as if on the physical safety, y'all are ahead of the curve. And in fact, Mark, the commissioner has made that comment to you on any number of occasions, and it's well warranted. Back to you, Roy. During this time period, there's always new technology coming out that attempts to say that it can satisfy our wishes and desires, and old technology is being dusted off, saying that it can do it. One of those is the old ultraviolet lighting, and of course that's been around for 30 years, I guess, maybe longer. Where do we stand on looking at either new technology or the old technology being repackaged? Do you have time to take a look at that? Do you serve on any committees? Do you have feedback? Kind of bring us up to date.
Yes, we definitely, me and my team stay abreast of all the new technologies. We stay in constant contact with all our consultants that are experts in various fields to get updates from them and seeing what they're seeing in the industry to see if any of those opportunities are viable for Cypher ISD. I have served on several panelists on webinars in the last several months in talking about the initiatives we've implemented here at Cypher, and I can tell you there's no doubt that we've been ahead of the curve on most of the districts out there, and it's good to know that we try to stay on top of those things. I've been on a committee for the TEA for the school facility standards that Texas Education Agency was updating this past year, and that hopefully that's going to be published fairly soon, so I had input into that process. And members of my team also participate in any opportunity we have to not only offer our expertise for other school districts, but to learn from the experts out there and make sure we're doing everything we possibly can for the safety of our students and our teachers.
Thank you. I will say that different vendors, and that includes different architectural firms, have assured me that this district is in fact ahead of the curve in looking at and providing and trying to anticipate the physical safety requirements. I will mention, and it's way early, but it never hurts to plant a seed. I would certainly be receptive, and I'm only one voice, in changing the minimum square footage plan that we have, either for classrooms or for cafeterias. But of course, we always have to be careful not to plan to fight the battle in the future, addressing the battle that we fought yesterday. That's always a trap. But I'll go ahead and make that mention that I would be interested in looking at that cost benefit should it be appropriate.
One thing I would like to add is that one of the things we do with every one of our buildings is we always try to do a post-occupancy evaluation to see what worked well, what may not have worked well. We get input from campuses, just like on Rowe Middle School that we just opened up. As we start living in that building, we'll go back to that campus staff and get their feedback, and so we can improve upon the design as well as our construction and design standards and programming standards we have in the district.
One of the favorite questions of Mr. Covian, and he asks it about every year, so I hope I'm not stealing your question, but so he always likes to have an update on where we stand on our portable buildings, and are we maintaining our portable buildings so that they can be pushed into use should we have need to do so. Can you give us just a very quick update on that?
Yes, we've actually gotten rid of some of our older buildings as surplus property that were at the point of the cost to maintain them was not worth it at that point. And so the majority of the buildings we have are our metal buildings that hold up. We have 20-year warranties on those systems, and they've been holding up well. Our maintenance department continues to stay up with work orders. That's one positive thing out of this COVID environment is we've caught up on all our work orders over the last 6 months, and we're able to stay on top of those, which is a benefit for our campuses to make sure our systems and our buildings are in tip-top shape. And in fact, we've actually moved some portables around just recently in the last 2 weeks to accommodate additional social distancing at a few of our campuses where there was some concern at.
And would you repeat that last answer, because I think it's worth hearing again.
We have actually moved, I think it was a total of 7 portables this past 2 weeks, and they were ready for the first day of school to adjust for potential social distancing issues that we were concerned with at campuses.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Bob, you know me, I always have a long list of questions. If you want, I can keep going, or you can pass the microphone.
I'd say let's go on.
Very good, sir. You know, these may be questions for Marnie, or perhaps I'll throw it back to Teresa. And I'll go ahead and lay out all 3 of them, and y'all can tell me who should answer. First, where do we stand on the identification, preparation, and sufficiency of our isolation rooms? Secondly, are we in compliance with the TEA COVID-19 reporting guidelines? You already answered it indirectly, but I just want another answer. Are we in compliance with ADA or other governmental COVID-19 laws and regulations?
I'm going to let Ms. Sims answer that last question, and then I think I can respond to the other 2.
Well, I think Sharita touched on it, but in regard to when you say ADA, like in the employment context, we've obviously engaged in the interactive dialogue and provided those accommodations that didn't fundamentally alter some of the essential functions of the job, and HR's done a really good job with that. And then they've been able to even address through other accommodations, even if it's not always the first one that comes to mind or the one that was requested, human resources. And I've supported them a little, but I mean, honestly, they've done 95% of it. The directors, I know Sharita would echo this, the directors have done a tremendous amount of work at that level. And then, you know, she supports them, and then I support her and Deb. So Deb is also heavily involved. So yes, in that perspective. And then on the student front, worked with Barbara Lewandowski and Laurie Barnes a lot in working through accommodations for students who might have medical or other issues. Those have all been consistently handled either through the IEP process or for students who were not previously identified as a student with a disability through Section 504. We've worked through those, and really, Barb has shared, and I don't know if I've gotten to tell her directly, but Dr. Carrie Myers is serving as our district-wide 504 coordinator, and she's been amazing. And so she's really worked to push down some procedures to really help support the campuses in that. So I feel very comfortable in working with both Sharita and Barb in both of those fronts that we've been able to address and meet those obligations. As far as other COVID-19 specific regulations or laws, really the primary one that comes to mind is really in the employment context, and it's the FFCRA leave, and we've been implementing that since April the 1st. That's really beyond the ADA and actually covers 5 areas. It can include child care and some of the expanded family medical leave provisions that are now available and just some other things. And so, again, Human Resources has taken the lead on that, and they've been implementing that since April.
Thank you, very thorough.
As Dr. Bernal's coming up, I'm going to let her answer the question regarding the isolation spaces on our campuses. I'll just again touch on the COVID-19 required reporting. As I mentioned, that is required that we do that effective the first day of instruction to the state. So we have made that report today for our first week of instruction. In addition, we make the daily reports, immediate reports to Harris County Public Health for any positive cases of staff or students on a campus. So if there's additional reporting, I'd be happy to answer that.
Good evening. Thank you for your question about the isolation rooms. Because every campus is laid out differently, we did not come up with one specific plan. We rather provided the nurses and the campus administrations with strategies on how to set up their isolation rooms, and we let them choose whether they wanted to use the clinic as the isolation room and come up with a secondary staging area to take care of well students, or whether they wanted to keep the clinic for their daily operations and come up with a separate isolation room with a door that they could isolate their students at. And the nurses have been very creative with this process, finding ways to store and move supplies and medications, on mobile carts or lockable storage units in the isolation rooms. And I've personally walked a campus with the principal to assess the campus to see what would be the best possible way for them to isolate a student. And I think we came up with a great solution. We found a room that was a conference room, very large conference room that had a lockable storage unit in it. And it also had access to a restroom as well as an exit at the side of the building, so the parents did not have to walk through the entire building to pick up their student and then walk with the student out of the building. They could just pull up on the side door and receive the student that way to protect, the student, the parent, as well as the rest of the campus community, to make sure that everybody is safe. So as far as I know, everybody has a plan in place with our strategies, and we're always ready to help and with whatever they need. And the nurses are doing a great job making sure that they have everything they need.
Thank you for that answer. And once again, it just says that we need to have patience. No school is made with isolation rooms. So we do, in fact, have to be creative. I would say that I'm concerned about the safety of our nurses. I would say that I'm concerned about our backup plan as it relates to our nurses, because our nurses will be in contact. But I'm sure that y'all will have plans to address that as it arises. But I still think it's important for our nurses to know that we're concerned and we care. Thank you for your answer.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. This may go over to Paula with technology. I received a text message from my cousin who teaches in the San Antonio area a couple of weeks ago, and her online class was hijacked by hackers in a most inappropriate fashion. And she laughed and she said, before you used to have fire drills and now you have to have technology drills. So have we experienced any of our classrooms being taken over by hackers along the same route? What was the result? Have we trained our teachers as to what to do if hackers come into a classroom? And let me go ahead and give you the rest of the technology questions, and then you can feather your answers in because I'm sure some will overlap. How would you evaluate the sufficiency of our broadband for our students thus far? What about dead spots? slow spots, our external websites. I know when I go into Zoom meetings, obviously I'm stressing, and everybody else is stressing bandwidth. How's our new software holding up? I know that software can be stressed as well based upon how much it's being used. And Teresa did give us a hardware status update on devices. And so I'll throw that in if you wanted to add any additional information. So answer those however you wish.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. To your first question, as Mr. Covey referenced earlier, the district has been a Zoom customer for 5 years, but since Zoom usage has increased dramatically since March, since that time, Zoom has enhanced their security features, as well as the district has developed a suite of training modules that are available for all of our staff. We've had very few incidents but during the spring and summer, but in an attempt to avoid some of these issues, there was a big push by both curriculum and instruction and technology services to share Zoom etiquette tips via email to our staff, to provide all of our Zoom accounts were audited and upgraded, whether they were a basic version to a professional version, which offered more features, and best practices were shared with all Zoom users. A couple of examples of these best practices that our teachers are now using is to password protect the session, number two, to provide waiting rooms. And these waiting rooms provide a way that a teacher can identify a student before they allow them to enter the waiting room. A teacher or a host has the ability to better control a meeting by muting individuals, by controlling video, by preventing screen sharing, by locking a meeting, and removing participants at any point in time. It is strongly recommended that all links for a classroom Zoom session be posted within Schoology, and this limits the access to only the intended users to the Zoom session. And lastly, our Zoom continues to be updated with features and security enhancements on a regular basis, where they're addressing additional vulnerabilities as they're exposed. To address your question number 2 regarding bandwidth, as we've prepared for the start of the school year, we've learned from other school districts that bandwidth has been the number one challenge. We continue daily to monitor our bandwidth, and we feel confident that we are able to meet the increased demands. We have 2 internet service providers, one at ISC and our second one at Cyrus-1. Each of these internet service providers, we have a limited bandwidth capacity, but we've worked with our providers so that they can burst to double that capacity. As far as our hotspots for our students that are the Connect using hotspots remotely, we've implemented a mobile device management system with our 2 providers, both Verizon and T-Mobile. This provides us with the ability to access technical data about the health of the hotspots, to manage and schedule updates, and the ability to track the hotspots geographically. To date, we've received minimal complaints regarding the slow or dead spots for these devices. We have a few reports that have been submitted, and we're currently working these, but the majority of our reports have been about basic functionality and connectivity of these hotspots. As far as the new software, specifically Schoology or other web-based resources, we've received no complaints regarding connectivity. The filtering profile that is currently on our students' hotspots provides the same internet filtering experience whether you are on premise at a campus or at home. As a follow-up to the devices that have been ordered, as Ms. Hull mentioned earlier, to date, we've delivered over 38,000 devices. These are devices from our existing fleet of devices, plus over 7,000 hotspots have been delivered. The status of our newly ordered devices, we spoke with Lenovo this past Thursday, and all 75,300E devices are being built from the same Lenovo factory. The manufacturing plant is completely online and is fully functional. Although the number is small, they have shipped our initial shipment to Cypher devices 1 week ago on Saturday. The rate of production should increase with shipments almost daily. The order is set up for partials, meaning Lenovo will ship as they build these devices and as they're completed. As of today, Lenovo anticipates there will be close to 14,000 Chromebook devices shipped to Cyfair between now and early October. Once the shipment is received, the devices will need additional software installed, and we will need to sanitize these devices before we distribute them to our students. Did I cover your 3 questions?
You did, but you know me, I always have a follow-up. Do we have enough licenses to install the software on the new devices coming in?
We do.
Very good. And one other follow-up. Don't we have a cybersecurity officer?
We do, yes, sir.
And when did we add that?
We added that two years ago, I believe. Maybe 3 years ago.
And once again, that was a point where we had been identified as being ahead of the curve. The short time period that I've been on the board, you are the 3rd CTO, and each one of y'all have been absolutely superb. So thank you for that, which you do. This is not easy. The short time that I worked in your world, all I knew was everything you touched always went wrong, and you had to figure out a way of fixing it. So thank you, Paula, and tell your team thank you from the board
Thank
as
you.
well. Bob, a question for you. Do you see a benefit or a need in having a COVID-19 auditor or audit in the same fashion that we have a security audit?
Talking to me?
Well, I did say Bob. You know, actually, the way I wrote this, it was to Bob and Mark, and Mark looked like he didn't want the question, so I just said it to Bob. Mark had his mask on, and Bob had his mask off, so I figured, Bob, you're ready.
Tom, I would say, and I'll let Teresa expound on this, so Bob and I can both get out of this. But I would say that one of the reasons we did partner with Memorial Hermann was we wanted everything that we were doing to have a set of medical eyes on that were, in all honesty, they weren't tied to any political party or anything else. We wanted the absolute truth, and we wanted to get it from a very well respected institution like Memorial Hermann. So they are providing an audit for us as we go. Teresa, anything to add to that? Is that what you mean? I guess my next question.
Well, certainly that's the backbone and the muscles behind the plan. But we also heard from Dr. Bernal that she has walked campuses to take a look at situations. And that's the other part of it, is this has to be a conscientious effort. We have to be flexible. We have to have a good plan. We have to implement it, but even plans after you've implemented them, they can go a little wobbly 6 months down the road. But I also heard from Dr. Bernal that y'all are aware of that. But I think the point needed to be made that not only do we have the plan, we're following the implementation of it. Along that line, and Bob, this one won't be for you. This
Thank
one's
God.
only for Mark.
No, ditto.
You know, we have led the state in having the leanest central admin staff for as long as I've been on the board, and for the 3 years before that when I was with the CLC watching things. During times of stress, you beat up your admin. And so that would lead me to issue the concern that we're shorthanded during times of high stress. And what are your thoughts on that?
I think you're accurate, but I don't think it's limited to any type of supervisory role. I think it's limited to teacher role. It's limited certainly in our operations department. So you are correct that Katie and Cyfair go back and forth between having the lowest administrative cost ratio in the state every year. So we're always right around each other. But I don't think it's just about, like I said, supervisory positions now. We could add a lot more classroom teachers if we could find them, and we could add, I'm sure Bill and Matt would tell you, we have openings for operation folks that we could use right now. I think everyone, Tom, and as you heard some of the teachers say earlier, I don't know of anyone in the districts that's really not working at max capacity, and we certainly could add folks. But the cost of COVID is going to be steep, and we're trying to be wise with our use of those dollars. But I think the leadership team will tell you that I've said we need to come to the board if it takes additional funding this year, whatever it takes to get through this year. We'll worry about 21, 22 when we get there, but we've just got to get through this year as best we can.
Well, I know I only have one voice. I bring it up, but I would certainly be receptive should the need present itself. And I urge you to be as timely as possible given the budget considerations.
Thank you.
Linda, I've mentioned your name 2 and 3 times, and it's always gone to somebody else. I think I have one for you. At the May board meeting, I talked about the free assessments on the TEA website that the commissioner mentioned that parents or a district could have their children take at the beginning of the year. At that board meeting, you noted that the preference of the district was to use the internally generated benchmarks. This is early. I know we aren't doing anything yet, but I think it's time to ask the question so that we're aware of it as time goes on. When will those be given? Will you be able to update the board on the status with a rough comparison with where we were last year, knowing that the commissioner advised us that for many of our Title I students, they could lose, just because of March, April, and May, they could lose 6 months. And he based that off of a university study that he had commissioned. Also, do we have any information, anecdotal or statistical, as to the effectiveness of our special learning, summer learning initiatives? And then a third one, assuming that I haven't lost all my my questions, which may be a boon for everybody in the room. We've heard from many of our speakers tonight that teachers are not only having to teach content, but they're also having to teach access to the content. And that's for kids who are in the class, but also at home. And I know that it may mean that teachers have to teach parents how to access the content as well. I know in the past you have had classes offered for parents to learn technology so they can better help their students, and that's been a program that's been around for years, but it can't be in person anymore. So the question I have for you is, should we have the equivalent of YouTube videos or Khan Academy videos on how to use the software for parents? So that's 4 different questions, and I'll let you answer them in whatever order you want to.
Right, so I'll start with the assessments. So you are correct. I shared that we would not be using the state assessments. To use the state assessments would be like giving a full-blown STAR test at this time. But we already have district benchmarks, DPMs, for beginning of year that we have had for a long time. We have our own testing system to gauge where our students are at and what areas we need to continue supporting them in. And so actually the benchmarks or the DPMs are actually starting later this week is our first round, then they continue. We will be able to tie the benchmarks to data from last year, before March, and we'll be able to pull, just compare to see where they left off and where they're at right now. Even reading levels, we have reading levels from last year for the elementary. We'll be able to compare where they're at right now. As far as summer school goes, we'll be able to, we don't have any data yet on summer school, but we'll be able to do the same thing. We'll be able to compare how our students are doing on our DPMs, on our district benchmark, and we'll be able to compare, did the students who attended one of our summer programs, how did they do as compared to those that did not attend? So all of that data we'll be able to assemble for the board, but we can't until we have all of the beginning of year information ready to go. As far as support for our parents, Joel, can you bring up that one slide that I gave her, that sheet? We have, I think I shared last time that we have different videos that we have put together for our parents. Dr. OU asked last time about whether we have them in Spanish. And so we have gone back and provided the Spanish captions for the videos. We've also connected some or linked some to YouTube, because by doing that, parents can actually access some. The captions are in different languages, not just Spanish, Vietnamese, different languages. I'm not aware of one that we don't have the captions for, but I'm gonna go back, because it's possible that we missed. But I wanted to show you that we have just a little bit about all the different videos that we put together. And Mr. Doctor, you talked about how-to videos, so you can see there we have how-to videos. Everything from how do you log into Schoology, how do you message the teacher, how do we connect to it as well? How do we set an environment for remote learning for our students? So there is a wide array of different videos for our parents. We even established a set of videos for the first day of school, so that our teachers, our schools could decide what they wanted to pull and what they wanted to use. Some of the questions that we've gotten, and I think some think that it's a Schoology issue, but it's not really a Schoology issue. They've been questions like how do I connect? I can't connect. I'm trying to connect. Well, you have to put an S before the student ID, and so we have some parents who are not putting the S. So they were thinking it's Schoology. Well, it really isn't Schoology. It's that we weren't putting the S in front of it. So we've had some different questions about Schoology, but they've really been more internal things. They really haven't been Schoology connected. And so we're working through some of those. But you can see, Joel, just scroll down, you can see that we've had just an array of all these different support systems and documents and videos for our parents. And they're online, they're still online. We're leaving them up. Did I answer your question? Did you have another
You
one?
did.
Okay.
Can I add one comment too? I know I've seen some schools are having parent meetings, like Zoom meetings, just with their parents and to walk them through the process. So some of the campuses are actually reaching out to their individual parents and having like a parent meeting like you would normally during the school year.
That is correct, they
They're
are.
meeting with them through Zoom to help them through this too.
One thing I would touch on that you lightly touched on, you talked about taking of STAR test. I would certainly, we have to be accountable, and as you know, I'm a strong believer in external accountability. But I would urge patrons of the district to contact the TEA that this is not the time period. Certainly, we report the accountability, but this is not the time period to be trotting out their A through F system. When you have closed schools and you have hybrid systems and you have tremendous social unrest as well. The patience needs to be not just with our stakeholders, but the patience needs to be with our state leadership as well. Thank you for your answers, Linda. And Bob, I don't know about you, but all these questions have just plumb worn me out. I'm done.
Well, I think that's a blessing, Tom, I'm just going to say. Ms. Blackshear?
Teresa, question. Did we have enough subs to cover teacher absenteeism the first week of school? Do you know?
I will let Ms. Franklin answer that question. I do not have that information.
Okay.
Thank you.
So our teacher fill rate was about 73%
Okay.
for the first week of school.
So was that, I guess to clarify a little bit more, was that teachers that were coming back and just were sick the first week of school? Or is that absentees that we had because we may have had unfilled positions?
So those do not include unfilled positions.
Okay.
So when we looked at our data, we made sure to remove any vacancies out of that,
Okay.
out of that data. So that is data that does not include
Okay.
vacancies.
Okay, but did we have them all covered?
No,
No.
we were at 73%.
At 73%.
Out of 100, out of all of the absences that we
Okay.
had, only 73.
Okay, and so
Okay.
what did we do in that case?
Well, in that case, the campus pulled other staff members to cover those classes. And so that's when they used their additional instructional support that aren't actual classroom teachers.
Like
They
maybe
pull those.
APs or?
I mean, they use a lot of different resources. We also have put in place additional instructional support at each campus. So some campuses received at the high school, we allocated long-term subs, 3 of them, so to cover COVID absences, in the
Right.
middle school 2, and at the elementary 1. So they did have some of those individuals that were there and ready to cover some of those absences for the campuses, and they would not be in that number.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And then Teresa, I was wondering, do we have some kind of measurement in our mind where we would need to be COVID number wise to resume UIL competitions for, say, agriculture, drama, band competitions, orchestra, choir competitions? Do we have any idea what that number is? Because I know there is some UIL, such as football and sports, are going to take place. But what about the other UIL competitions that come throughout the year?
And I do think there are plans for all of the UIL competitions. I think right now it's just that it's football season, volleyball season, cross country, and then on the fine arts, marching band. And if campuses choose to participate in state marching contest, I think they can continue to move forward with that. So, you know, as far as competitions, we have not put any restrictions on that from a UIL perspective. There's, you know, obviously guidance. When you talk about ag, I think that that is an area that's a little bit different and unique, and we need to look at all of those. You know, I think our campus principals, as we opened up our campuses, they felt like that they really needed to limit a lot of those trips and requests because, you know, again, it was just the uncertainty of how this was all going to happen. How we were going to be able to implement all of this, but we are prepared to step back and look. But in ag, you know, when I would say about that, what's unique, I think, about this time of the year with those activities, those are individual competitions which are not governed by UIL, and really just decisions individual students may make to compete, if I understand correctly, versus in the early spring in February when we have our
School show.
Our school show,
livestock
where that
show,
is kind of an activity where the entire program competes and participates. And I would compare that to, like right now, an entire team participates, be it the entire band, the entire football team, volleyball, all of those. But, you know, there are definitely other organizations and groups. And, you know, I think we're prepared to stop and look at that. Again, we've only been open for 5 days. And so we need to, you know, look more closely in what we feel like we're prepared to do. I know the campuses have really limited large gatherings, you know, even in other ways, such as homecoming dances. I think they've made the decisions to delay those events to later in the year, still have the homecoming games. But again, it goes back to...
well, I guess that's why I was asking the question. Do we have some kind of measurement about when we can resume to do those things?
And I can't say that there is a concrete measure for that. There is not. And I do think we're prepared to start looking at all of those activities and things that students are engaged in. You know, obviously a homecoming dance, I think we felt was, you're unable to establish some social distancing there with that event. But we are absolutely prepared to start looking at that, seeing where we are and how we feel we can safely do those activities.
Okay.
We don't want students, I mean, Ms. Blacksherry, please know we're not trying to pick and choose. We want kids to have the opportunity to participate in all of those things that they enjoy and they have a passion for. So.
Okay, thank you. And then have we, I know we were anticipating we would be able to, but I just wanted to ask, have we been able to issue medical grade masks to all our nurses by now?
Yes, and I think the N95 masks were available from the beginning, and we have adequate supply. Mr. Powell, I think, can speak to that in the supply that we've had delivered and received.
Good.
That is
Sorry
correct.
about that, Bill.
That's all right. Dr. Bernal, she can attest to this. Our suppliers are actually prioritizing the masks to nursing and first responders before we're able to get those for other people as well.
Correct.
So yes, they have been able to
Oh, that's awesome.
get those, and there is an adequate supply.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Ryan, you awake? You have any questions? Not a one. Dr. Ogletree?
Yeah, mine have been, and I just wanted to say that on the mental health issue, I know we have a very comprehensive plan that Franklin Sampson and his team have put forth, and I just hope that with all the stress that we have in this district, that our teachers and will take advantage of what we already have put in place. And I think we are, as Tom kept saying, we are ahead of the curve. And I think that is one of the things that we can highlight too, and just hope that with this COVID season, that people will take advantage of what we have in place for their own mental peace and well-being. Roy, you indicated with Tom's question, did I hear you say that we already have, and you're satisfied with everything that we are using now for sanitizing and cleaning and all those things that you are satisfied with what we have now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And if unforeseen, if what we're using, if there is a breakout or something at a school, would you tell us what, from your end, would happen at that particular school?
If we had any kind of breakout at a campus, we would be bringing in our operations team that evening and do what we call a deep clean. And we'll be fogging and sanitizing all the high-touch surfaces, desks, you name it, in the building, and get a complete crew brought in to take care of that specific campus.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. For Ms. Franklin, just a question on our subs. Have they been trained in virtual, our FISD Connect, or would, if a sub was needed, would on that day for that class, we would just forego the Connect aspect of our education? process?
So the subs that I referenced before that we originally placed on the campus, there was, I think we allocated about 170 subs, additional instructional support on the campuses. Those individuals started August 14th, and they were trained in Schoology, and they were trained in the procedures for those assigned campuses. So those individuals, yes, have Schoology or CFISD Connect capabilities. Our day-to-day subs do not have Schoology access.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Ms. Heineman?
Thank you. Thank you for the very thorough report and update. I'm grateful for all the participants on the reopening committee, including the parents and the students who are continuing to participate and provide input. In terms of enrollment, our enrollment last year was 116,000 something. Is that correct?
No, by October, we were over 118,000.
Last year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, so we are down 2,500, but in terms of the number of kids that we have no contact with, I know that's been an issue in other school districts where there's been like unable to connect with 40,000 students. Are we seeing a lack of contact with any of our students? Or the ones that are registered, we are making contact with them?
Yes, and I think that's what we're in the process of identifying, is the students that, maybe were no responses through the questionnaire, coupled with those that may have selected CFISD Connect but have not engaged yet. So I know Dr. Stewart, and you can speak to that, Dr. Stewart and her team, after our campuses go through a period of trying to make certain they have everything in the system, that's when the student services team kind of takes over and identifies those students and really starts reaching out and trying to make contact and get them connected and determine where they are. Is there anything you want to add to that, Dr. Stewart?
Thank you, Teresa. That's absolutely correct. So we have a list of leaver codes, and we track those students. Have they actually enrolled in another district? Have they determined that they're going to be homeschooled? And those were the codes that Teresa talked to you about.
Right.
So every year at this time, we are gathering that data. So you have a lull where campuses are enrolling kids and they're sending records, and we're checking to find out where they are. So that's where we are again this year.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, we share that disappointment on the decline in enrollment for our pre-K kiddos, because we put so much time and energy and effort into starting full-day pre-K. So I will be very happy when we can pick that back up again and get some more of those kiddos on our campuses, because we know the importance of pre-K has not gone away with the current situation. In terms of the selection of CFISD Connect to on-campus, the average is 45% on-campus, 55% Connect. We know there are some campuses that have over 50% of their students coming face-to-face. It's my understanding that we did add portables to some campuses to accommodate that increase in face-to-face enrollment. Is that correct, Roy? In order to maintain social distancing. Is that correct? Okay. About
Yes, ma'am.
how many campuses did we add portables?
It was 7 portables. Matt, do you remember how many campuses? Was it 3 or 4?
I think it was 5 or 6.
5,
Okay, so again, trying to ensure that we maintain that social distancing. And I understand that's part of the challenge of if we see this large request from parents to send their kids on to campus, right, for face-to-face instruction when they originally asked for CFISD Connect, because it affects the ratios, the social distancing that we're trying to maintain on our campuses.
That's correct. We've just recently updated our inventory to see how many surplus buildings we have, so that we can anticipate if there is a need, then we will hopefully be able to move another building around to accommodate that specific issue at a campus.
Okay, thank you. In terms of technology distribution, kudos to IT and transportation and food service and all the folks that worked on that incredibly huge project. I think what a lot of parents didn't realize was that a lot of the devices that have been sent out to CFISD Connect students came from classrooms. So then when their kiddos went to school, there were no devices within the classrooms. And I think there was some concern or some misunderstanding about face-to-face students needing devices from the very first day of school. So I think teachers have worked through that. Parents are understanding that they don't have to all go out and try to buy laptops right now. They can just wait, and they will receive a device hopefully by the end of the semester. So in the meantime, the classroom students are lacking devices because the Connect students needed them in order to access. Okay. There was a gap in understanding, I think, in how that was going to work on a parent perspective. At some point, I think it would be helpful for the board to receive information about how the dollars are being spent and where the dollars are coming from and going. Like, I was thinking about the desk shields. That was not originally budgeted. Does that come out of M&O? Does that come out of bond dollars? I know the $44 million we approved for additional devices was most likely going to come from the bond, correct? So not right now and not next month, but at some point, Karen, I think it'd be helpful to see where these dollars are coming from and where they're going. I know we have a large healthy fund balance, but I think it'd be nice to have an update on that before the end of the school year.
One thing, just as a reminder also, in our when y'all did approve the budget, we had a $10 million
right.
Line item in there for COVID,
that.
but that's not going to come anywhere close
right.
to covering it.
Right. So I think it'd just be helpful for the board to understand as we continue to spend dollars, because it's important to keep our students and staff safe, where are those dollars coming from, so that we're not, I would like to just have an update on where the fund balance is, just ongoing.
Absolutely.
Okay. I am very pleased to see the partnership with Memorial Hermann Physician Advisory. I think that's very helpful for us to receive that expert input and to show that we are indeed listening and looking at the science and taking that into consideration in all of our decisions. I think it's also, I've seen some additional communication from the district, not just about the importance of masking, social distancing, and hand hygiene within our schools, but also asking our community to please also maintain masking, social distancing, and hand hygiene so that we can keep our schools open. Teresa, I have a question about the reporting. I just make sure I understand it correctly. So we're going to track Monday through Sunday, and then on Monday we're going to post on the website, right?
Correct, until we're able to get the Qualtrics dashboard up and running, and then that would immediately become a live, real-time dashboard.
So when I look at what was posted today, that is those 4 cases reported from last week, Monday through Sunday.
They were actually effective Tuesday, the first day of instruction.
Sorry, Tuesday.
Tuesday
Okay.
through Sunday, correct.
Gotcha. Okay,
Correct.
so if there were any cases reported today, that's not on there yet, but it will be there next Monday.
That is correct.
So when we hear like, oh, I heard there was a case, blah, 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 like it's
Right.
yes, but it won't be on the website till next Monday.
And that's just the easiest way for us to make certain that it's accurate data, because right now we're keeping the data in different places, and so this was the best system to ensure that we're providing accurate information to the state and then providing accurate information on the website.
Okay, and I think that is helpful because, you know, we're seeing like different dashboards and different
Correct.
websites pop up that are supposedly representing Cypher ISD, but this will be the official.
That's the official number.
And then when we go to the dashboard in October, that will be real time, like daily. Updated
Correct.
daily. Okay.
Correct.
On what was posted today, what does multiple schools mean?
That's a great question. Multiple schools mean that if you have a staff member that may have visited multiple campuses, for instance, you may have a district staff member or a bus driver. A bus driver is even a better example. A bus driver that drives a bus for multiple
3 routes.
campuses.
Right.
And so if that driver tested positive, we would not report them as individual single campuses. We would report them in the multiple campus. That's the way TEA has set up the system.
Okay.
And they would be reported there. Or if we had a district staff member that visited multiple campuses, that's where they would be reported.
Okay. That's what I thought, but I just want to make sure I understood it. When, the notification letter that's sent to students and staff at the campus, are there two types of notifications? One that says a student or a staff member at your campus has tested positive, one type, and then a student or staff member has tested positive and your child has been identified as someone who now needs to be quarantined for 10 days.
We don't know. There's one notification letter for a staff or student that has tested positive. The other notification for anyone that is a direct contact of that individual that may need to quarantine, that is actually a phone call.
Gotcha.
That is a call to that individual that you've been identified as a direct contact, and they give, guidance and instruction to that individual about the length of time for the quarantine and answer any questions that they may have.
And who's responsible for making that phone call?
Well, the initial direct contacts on the campus are being handled by, we have a campus contact tracing team at the campus level because they have the relationship with the staff members, they have the relationship with the parents, and then our call center is available to answer any questions from a medical perspective. And that is, a 7-day-a-week operation that Dr. Bernal and her team provide that support.
Okay. I think I'm happy to see the testing that's being provided to employees, free flu shots. That makes me happy too. So that's it. Thank you very much for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heineman. I just have actually one question because I believe everybody's asked everything I could have thought of. And actually, Tom asked a couple that I didn't even have an answer for. Dr. Stewart, or Ms. Franklin, how close are we to having hired all the teachers that we thought we were going to hire this year?
So we currently have 130 teacher vacancies in our district. But let me put some perspective to that. The same time last year, we had 159 vacancies. So we have less vacancies than we did last year. And we typically run about 100 vacancies throughout the school year with people transitioning in and out of the district. So we have about 130 vacancies right now.
I had heard that possibly teachers that are students that were in their final semester and doing student teaching might be available to be hired. Is that true or not true?
So most definitely. So there's been some opportunities for students that weren't there given what's the response to COVID-19, and we've had a lot of students take advantage of that. And so we have had the opportunity to fill a lot of some of our positions with those individuals that are coming from traditional universities that maybe didn't have their opportunity to take their tests and pass it. However, they're still held to the same standard of passing the test throughout the year.
Okay, good. Yeah. Thank you.
You're
Appreciate it. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Teresa, I just heard you say something about the tracing team at a campus. Is that for each campus? You have something set up like that? That's very interesting there.
Yeah, yes, sir. They have a campus team that works through that process.
Oh, excellent. Okay, thank you.
Got it. The board will now proceed with the consensus action items portion of the agenda. 7A, the board will consider approving the minutes of the August 10th, 2020 regular board meeting. The following non-consensus action items were moved to consent during the board work session on Thursday, September the 10th, 2020. And my thanks goes to Don Ryan for running such a quick meeting. Thank you. 8A, the board will consider approving the 2020 certified tax rolls and the estimated collection rate for 2020 to be 100% and the 2019 excess debt collection rate to be 0. 8C, the board will consider approving the 2020-2021 Cypress-Fairbanks ISD Student Code of Conduct. 8D, the board will consider awarding bids and contracts and are authorizing purchase orders as recommended in the posted agenda item. 1, CFISD printer quote. 2, district-wide copiers lease. 3, print center copiers lease. 4, external website design, content management, and web hosting services. 5, internal website design, content management, and web hosting services. 6, concrete installation, what is that word? Demolition and bollard. What are bollards? What are bollards? Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. HVAC, parts and supplies. 8, installation services. 9, plumbing fixtures, parts and supplies. 10, recovering movable air walls and gyp walls at the Berry Center. 8E, the board consider the approval and execution of the plat for CFISD Holbrook Elementary School. If any board member wishes to remove one or more items for further discussion, please do so at this time. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve consent items as recommended or amended.
Mr. President, I move that we approve consent items as recommended and/or amended.
Motion from Dr. Ryan. Do I have a second?
Dr. Ryan. I'll second the motion by Dr. Ryan.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Heineman. We're just all being elevated this time. All in favor, raise your right hand. And that's unanimous. If any board, the following non-consent action item remained on non-consent. 8B, the board will consider the 2020 tax rate resolution to support the 2020-2021 maintenance and operation and debt service budgets by setting the 2020 M&O and interest and sinking tax rates.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 1.3555, which is effectively a 0.74% increase in the tax rate, and further move that the board approve the resolution adopting the tax rate and levy ad valorem taxes for the year 2020 as reflected in the resolution for a decrease in the actual tax rate of 0.0145 or 1.45 cents.
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. Any questions or concerns?
Yes,
sir,
sir.
Mr. Jackson?
I did go back and take a look at the June board meeting. I did not misunderstand the presentation, and I did in fact indicate at that time that I wasn't certain how I would vote on this measure. I used the term cushions, and the reply was yes, we had cushions throughout. I think where we are now, it's fairly clear that we have used up our cushions, and the cost will continue to escalate from areas that we currently cannot anticipate. I generally don't explain why I vote one way or another on a board resolution, but I think since I had raised the issue before in public, I needed to address it again tonight. And so you'll see how I'll vote, but that helps to explain my vote on the measure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. We have a motion and a second.
Bob, I had a comment. I wanted to make a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yes.
Julie.
As I mentioned in the work session, I am disappointed to see the language that's required by the state legislature in terms of our local board's tax rate. I find that the language required by the state legislature is misleading to the public, and it is intended to make it appear that a local school district is raising the tax rate when in essence we are not. When if taxes are indeed, if taxpayers are paying additional property taxes, it's not due to the tax rate that we set, it's due to the property values that are set by the Harris County Appraisal District. So I find the language misleading, and I'm disappointed that we are forced to pass a resolution with that type of language.
Thank you, but what I will say, I was very proud of this board in making an adjustment to the resolution so that it did show that. So I thought y'all were very smart Thursday in doing that.
And I agree with Ms. Heinemann's remarks.
Yeah.
And thanks to Karen for wording that for us. It's appreciated.
Okay. Can I call for a vote now?
You
Okay.
sure can, Bob.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. And it's unanimous. All right. And now we are adjourned.
Did we do 8E?
Wait a minute.
The plat? Did we do Holbrook plat?
We have a motion
We
for
did.
non-consent action on 8B. We just did that. We did that, yes. We are adjourned, y'all.